two for like the last 50 years. So I would anticipate, that dynamic is obviously not going away. Now, you also have a situation of, what are you, delivering in the Congress? What are you delivering here? Honestly, like, I think even here in Florida, yeah, we've won big, but we won big because we delivered big, right? It wasn't just because we won the beauty pageant and did all that. No, that wasn't it. It was because people saw leadership. They saw following through. Instead of doing idle promises, we're actually delivering and doing things that people appreciated. So, we have supermajority in the Senate, supermajority in the House. Based off the House's performance, in 25, would they keep the supermajority if the election were today? No, I don't think they would, because I think some of the voters who have appreciated what Florida's done, I think probably have been alienated by that performance. So, I think even here in Florida, they need to be swimming in the same direction that the voters expect us to do. It's totally fine if you campaign on something. You don't have to campaign on what I believe in, but you got to tell voters what you could do. Then you got to get in and follow through. And I think the problem that they had was, they told voters basically they were going to continue to do, our Florida agenda, and then they got in and they tried to unwind it, and that, a lot of our folks did not like that. And part of it was just, it was false advertising, right? You didn't tell them that. If you want to stop our anti-woke higher education reforms, campaign on that in a Republican primary. Tell them you think you want to make universities woke again. See if they'll vote for you for that. Tell them you wanted to make Florida a sanctuary state, the bill I vetoed at the special session. All the stuff we're doing, highway patrol, thousands and thousands of arrests of illegals turned over to ICE. Our detention facilities we have, turning over, ICE brings deportation. We have way more. ICE has done way more deportations out of Florida than they would have had we not done what we did. But, they passed a bill to make it illegal for the governor, make it illegal for me to work with ICE to help increase deportations of illegals. That was in the bill, literally in the bill. Did any of them run on that in a Republican primary? Obviously they didn't, because they wouldn't have been able to live to tell about it. So, I think some of this stuff is just, if you do what you say you're going to do, even voters that don't necessarily agree with everything, they will appreciate that, hey, I know where these guys stand. They did it. I think it's when you run one way to get elected and then you do some other stuff. And Florida, there's just the issue, Tallahassee's far away. There's a lot that goes on in the bowels that people may not be able to see. And it's like, can you just get away with that? So I think certainly for Florida, you're going to have some of those more marginal districts. And the question is, are our voters going to feel passionate enough to come out at sufficient levels to be able to support those folks? I can tell you, in 22, people they walk over coals barefoot to come out and vote, because they understood that we had to keep the momentum going. They understood what could have happened, the 4 years prior had that election gone the other way. So there was no way they weren't going to do it. 24, you're looking at Kamala Harris. They were all going to come out, and they did, and they came out in big numbers. 26, I think, is going to be a little bit more challenging for Republicans. Not insurmountable, but certainly an issue that I don't. Let's put it this way: if I was advising someone who was running, I say you cannot bank on 2022 levels of Republican support. You can't bank on that. You can't even bank on the 2024 levels, of support. And that was a presidential year. It tends to be a little bit more competitive in some respects. Although I will say 24, they didn't even 2024. Just think about it. We were the most significant swing state for a generation. 2020. I don't know if you guys remember. I couldn't even turn on cartoons for my kids without a Biden ad saying how bad Trump was. It was like they poured so much money into this state in 2020. Obviously, Trump won, I think, by 3.5%. So fast forward then 24. Not 1 cent spent in Florida. Like, it was just like it didn't exist. Like, you've never seen it be the most expensive and then not even a competition in Florida. So I think that's obviously good, but I don't think people can bank on that level of turnout. You got to earn it. You got to go out and earn it. And ultimately, you dance with the one that brung you, right? Like, when the voters backed you, and they backed you on a certain thing, stick with that. Do what you told them you would do. Don't try to unwind. I talked about these insurance premium reductions, auto insurance reductions. That was all because we did the overhaul of the legal market and the litigation reform. The Florida House, they tried to reverse that in this most recent session. I can tell you there would be no rebates scheduled. There would be no announcements of rate reductions had that succeeded. Now, they didn't campaign on that, right? So tell voters what you're going to do, follow through. Don't tell them one thing and do the other. That may be something I think that some of our Florida voters are going to be a little bit more sensitive to, maybe than some of these other states. I don't know, but yeah, look, it's this is a natural thing. There's a yin and a yang in politics. I always get a kick out of when people say their side wins an election. Oh, we're going to win every election going forward. Yeah, all you have to do is open a history book. That never happens. Like, it always goes back and forth, right? And so when you have a midterm, the party out of power typically does better. That's just the nature of it. It's the dynamics that I discussed, and so that clearly that was there. And the thing about it is, you remember they had to spend a lot of money in this deep red district here in Florida earlier this year. Massive amounts of money went into that. They had to spend a lot in Tennessee, as well. So that's just what we're dealing with, and I think Republicans should go into it clear-eyed. I don't know him, and I've never met him, and I don't know much about him. I got asked about that the other day, just not something that's ever been on my radar.
Governor, on Monday, DEC released a report showing $759 million needed for repairs for the Florida State Park system. Is there a plan to address that?
Do you want to talk about what you guys are planning?
As you know, that report was required as part of a bill that passed last year, and we'll be working with the legislature and the governor's office to see how we can address that moving forward. Sustainable funding for park maintenance will be very important moving forward. Thank you.
And since you're there have been some concerns when it comes to environmental groups about SB 290, Section 3, that allows the state to sell off some of the conservation lands for agricultural purposes. Do you want to address that, you or the governor?
That is not a bill that we've done a complete analysis on yet, but we'd be happy to follow up with you when we've done that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, look, some of the stuff that gets in these bills, well, no, because there was the one provision which I really wanted for people in this region that said, if you had damage from the hurricanes, you have a right to rebuild as it was. I mean, like, the notion that somehow you can't, rebuild your house to the same specifications prior to the storm is absurd. And so, that was the thing. I was like, I want to make sure that that's there. I felt that homeowners deserve that, and I know they were getting trouble from some of the local governments, but it's just it's not an easy situation to be in. It's like there's certain things that get damaged in life. Your home is like the most sensitive outside of life, right? So so we did. But then there's other things that get put in there. There's things that that will get put in like a tax package. Am I going to veto the whole tax package because there may be one or two things that I wouldn't necessarily put in there? No. And there have been things that have been in there in the past, and it's not like it's bad, but it's like tax cut for this or that. Some of them are more towards discrete interests. I'd rather just do it broad based, but it is what it is. I'm not going to veto relief for commuters or relief for young moms on sales tax or all these other things because of that. So that's just kind of the yin and the yang of how these things operate. But I do think kind of the 50,000 foot view is my position is, and I think most people in this state is, yes, we went from a backwater of 90,000 people 150 years ago to, or however, 175 years ago to, now 23 plus million people. And, there's some benefits to that. Some of these people come in, they pay taxes, they don't consume services, all that. But then and start businesses, move businesses, but then there's challenges with that, right? And we don't want the state to be a concrete jungle. We want to have. So that's why we did the Florida Wildlife Corridor. So you got massive amounts of land that we've put into that. How many acres have we? I mean, we've done hundreds of thousands of acres on that one, and you're able to do that. And I think that's really good. And we've done some of these others to put in conservation. But one of the things some of the folks in the legislature have wanted to do over the years and have done And I'll admit I was a little more lukewarm on it, but I do see some value is doing these agriculture, rural family land things where you basically have a conservation easement. It could stay in agriculture, but it's not going to end up being a subdivision or something like that. So I do think that that's had positive impact, because the thing is like these farmers, especially if you're like citrus or something, which has been tough, they can make more money just selling to a developer than staying in business. They may even lose money during business. So this is a way where, the integrity of the land can be maintained. They could be doing that, and that helps preserve some of the character of the state of Florida. But yeah, by the time I leave office, we will have done more on that than anybody's been able to do. And it's really significant when you look at the map of it and just see how much is in that wildlife corridor. And so that's basically going to be there for people to enjoy, and the nature of that for a long, long time. So I'm glad to have had a hand in that. I know we had a lot of champions in the legislature for doing it, but the agriculture, preserving the agriculture with this program, it's grown on me, because I do think the alternative in many respects would likely just be, to create more concrete and to do things like that. And look, people have a right to do with what they want with it. I mean, it's not like but if there's a different way where you can change the incentives and the public ends up being better off, and we can kind of keep, a buffer on some of this stuff, that ain't the worst thing in the world. And so I think it's going to be good. So, well, listen, it's been great to be here. We will be back soon, and go Bucks.
Governor Ron DeSantis wrapping up a news conference in Tampa where he announced $112 million in water resources grants, including some wastewater upgrade initiatives for springs across the state, and $12 million as well going to universities statewide to fight harmful algal blooms. So some environmental announcements there from the governor, speaking at the Hula Bay Club in Tampa, and also answering some questions about redistricting, reacting to the special election results in Tennessee last night, talking about the outlook for the midterm elections and a number of other things as well. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we still have a lot to get to, including this hearing on Capitol Hill, where the Senate Commerce Committee is asking some questions of Jared Isaacman, who is the nominee for the new NASA administrator. So we will take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Want to get you live to Capitol Hill. This is the Senate Commerce Committee. This is Jared Isaacman. He is a billionaire businessman, a commercial astronaut as well, and he is President Trump's nominee for NASA administrator. Was previously nominated once before. Then the president withdrew that nomination before renominating him. That is Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, having the chance to ask some questions right now. Let's go ahead and listen in live from Capitol Hill.
So was it 100 million? Was it 200 million?
Senator, we've never disclosed it other than the fact that we were able to raise substantially more than the cost of the mission for charitable causes like St. Jude.
So you won't tell us how much you paid the man who publicly campaigned for your nomination. Will you request that SpaceX release you?
They didn't give me a discount, Senator.
I appreciate that, but you were paying him. Will you request that SpaceX release you from the NDA so that you can provide the committee with this information?
Senator, I will commit to always work with the appropriate ethics professionals to make sure I'm, continuously in compliance with my ethics agreement.
Will you ask him to release you from the NDA so that you can provide that information to the committee?
I have no issue asking them to release me from non-disclosure, Senator.
Okay, that would be helpful. Mr. Isaacman, can you tell us, since President Trump initially withdrew your nomination, have you had any communication with Mr. Musk about the job of NASA administrator?
I have not, Senator.
You have not. So the American people actually deserve to know how much money you have spent personally on SpaceX and whether the head of SpaceX and Starlink, Elon Musk, was personally involved in your nomination, because we're looking at conflicts of interest so big that they have their own center of gravity, and we just have to make sure that it's all out there and it's fully understood by the American people. And since your last nomination, we've received the President's 2026 budget request, which proposes a nearly 50% cut to NASA's science funding. Do you support President Trump's proposal to cut NASA's science funding in half?
Senator, I certainly support the president's goal of reducing the deficit and shrinking our national debt. Now, an awful lot has happened from the initial presidential budget request to the continuing resolution that we've been operating in to the one big beautiful bill that has plussed up additional funding for NASA. So I would, if I'm confirmed, I'd love to get my arms around where we are presently at.
Well, a 50% cut to the NASA science budget is dramatic. And considering reports about your, quote, Project Athena plan for NASA, which literally banks on the decimation of our scientific abilities, among other things, this document calls for NASA to stop collecting its own data and instead set up a taxpayer-funded subscription service from private companies for their products, companies that will set their own price for data that NASA needs to function on an ongoing basis. Would Starlink or SpaceX be companies that NASA would potentially have to turn to obtain data?
Well, Senator, first of all, I think pretty much everything you just said there was not correct. What that draft document contemplated was working with commercial companies for certain types of Earth observation data, not SpaceX or Starlink. I think I specifically called out Planet and Black Sky as examples of companies that might be able to deliver Earth observation and climate science data at lower cost, specifically to free up resources for other planetary science missions that commercial companies are not capable of doing.
Well, I would say this, the proposal, and this is the truth, the proposal would strip NASA for parts and instead transfer taxpayer funds directly to the bank accounts of Starlink and SpaceX, companies owned by the very same man who may or may not have been in the room when Trump offered you the job. And we're just going to have to keep a very close eye on what will unfold at NASA if you are confirmed. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Budd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Isaacman, great to see you again. Let's talk about NASA's Quest program of quiet supersonic. You know, it's designed to de-risk the science, validate the quiet supersonic technologies, and then let American industries like Boom, for instance, which has a presence in North Carolina, let them take the lead in building the commercial market. So as administrator, how will you ensure that NASA stays focused on enabling that new industry and avoids creating unintentional regulatory or technical barriers for the next generation supersonic flight?
Well, Senator, this is certainly a subject that I'm pretty passionate about. I do think it's NASA's job. I believe it's funded by taxpayers to explore the near impossible in air and space. And when they arrive at a major development and that capability is mature enough to hand it off to industry where competition can drive innovation and bring down costs. X-59 is an interesting example. There is some overlap with what Boom's doing. I think actually Boom is an extraordinary company. I'd love to see a lot more American companies trying to break the status quo and take on big, bold projects like that. I think NASA just needs a lot more X-planes, honestly. That was a really exciting one that we all had an opportunity to watch rather recently alongside the recent performance from Boom. But I'd love to see us have multiple programs that are exploring radical designs in airframe and propulsion. And when they do have those breakthroughs, not dissimilar to the 1970s, 1980s, when NASA was experimenting with fly-by-wire and thrust vectoring capabilities that have made their way in commercial aircraft as well as military aircraft like the F-22.
Do you think there's a problem with Quest eventually competing against Boom? Do you think that's a potential problem?
No,
I
would certainly hope.
I'd say the whole industry, not just Boom in particular.
I'd certainly hope not, Senator. I actually don't think NASA's at its best when it's doing what industry is doing, because at that point, talent would naturally probably gravitate to industry where they get the advantage of, who knows, appreciating stock options and such. I think NASA should constantly be recalibrating to work on that near impossible, what no one else is doing, which is going to attract that kind of exciting technology. That's going to attract that kind of talent to work on that exciting technology. When they figure it out, they hand it off to industry and they recalibrate to the next big, bold endeavor. I think that serves the talent, workforce, and the mission of NASA very well.
Thank you. You know, in your testimony earlier, you were clear that the United States is in the middle of a second space race. The great rival that you mentioned spent more than a decade establishing a space Silk Road, offering collaboration on satellite, space launch, space infrastructure development to more countries across the Middle East and North Africa. So how does this sort of space diplomacy from an adversary affect our prospects for continuing dominance in space? And what's your vision for space diplomacy of ours?
Well, Senator, I think there's a couple parts to that. So first, NASA has always been referred to, as a soft power. There's lots of diplomatic implications to their mission. A lot of our greatest endeavors are worked on with our allies across Europe, the Middle East, Canada, for example. I think what's concerning now is that some of these countries have more than one choice. So for the longest time period, America owned the ultimate high ground of space, and that attracted the interest of many nations to want to collaborate and partner with us. The Chinese do have their own space station now. They went from a single technaut in orbit approximately 20 years ago to having a space station where they're launching at an extraordinary cadence. So I think this is why there needs to be urgency to take a close look at NASA, what's going right, and do a lot more of that, and the things that are going wrong to clear those obstacles and paths so we can get back to doing, world-changing missions again.
Yeah, sounds great.
Jared Isaacman being questioned right now during a nomination hearing. The Senate Commerce Committee having the chance to ask him some questions there right now. We'll check in with more on that in a little bit. Right now, we're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Coming up this weekend, it's a mix of music, some politics, and also local businesses and restaurants. We're talking about the Mad Soul Fest, a music festival going on Saturday at the Central Florida campgrounds, and put together by one of Central Florida's members of Congress. That is Maxwell Frost, who joins us live now via Zoom this morning. And Congressman Frost, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So talk to us about Mad Soul Fest and what all it entails for those who may just be hearing about it for the first time.
Well, this is actually an event that I started when I was 18 years old with some of my best friends. We went to the Osceola County School for the Arts. We always loved putting on shows, but also I was involved in politics, and I've always been caught between these two things of loving the arts and then also being involved in politics. And so we started this music festival with our own money, booking local acts. The first Mad Soul had about 65 people that went to it, and about half of those people were actually people who were performing. And little by little, we grew it and grew it and grew it. And this one is actually going to be the 8th Mad Soul. When I got elected to Congress, we decided to make it an event that my campaign would put on. We could make it bigger, we could invite bigger artists, and we could invite more people to be a part of it. And the whole point of the event is, number one, it's a community event, it's a concert. Number two, we're registering voters. As people come into the event, they'll be able to register to vote. In fact, the New York Times was at Mad Soul last year surveying people, and they found that roughly 90% of the people going to the event had never been to a political event before. So it's really a way to bring new people into hearing from local community leaders, amazing local bands, and a few national artists as well.
Yeah, you've had some big names out at this. Talk to us about what we can expect this year.
Yeah, last year we had Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a band called Muna, Phoebe Bridgers came out and did a guest appearance. And so you never know what's going to happen at Mad Soul. This year, we're really excited to have a band called Magdalena Bay headlining the show. They're from Miami. We have Ali and AJ, which is going to be a lot of fun. They have a lot of new music, but a lot of people know them as, it's a bit of a throwback. That'll be fun. But we have a lot of great local acts as well. Most of the people speaking and performing are from Orlando or from Florida. So we have the Pheromones, Raspberry Pi. We have the Renaissance Theater Company that's going to be doing a whole performance, and that's going to be beautiful. And we also have Mirror Parts as well. We're also going to hear from State Representative Anna Scamani, Commissioner Kelly Semrad, Senator LaVon Bracy Davis, Dr. Bracy Davis, civil rights icon and voting rights icon in Central Florida. So it's a lot of local leaders you'll get to hear from. And the whole point of the event is it's a very joyful thing. Usually you'll go to a political rally and there might be, an artist that performs an acoustic song or something like that, which is great. But this is like a legitimate concert with politics sprinkled throughout it. And our hope is we can get some people registered to vote, get people engaged with organizations. Instead of vendors set up, we actually have roughly 30 local organizations set up, and people will get to go throughout, talk with the organizers and think about, how do I want to get involved in politics? Maybe it's the Maxwell Frost campaign, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's one of the other 30 orgs that'll be there. We just want people to be involved some way, somehow in Central Florida, and Mad Soul's a way to do that. And I can't leave out the fact that we're going to have some amazing local food set up as well. Filipino food. We have an amazing coffee cart that'll be set up, and it might be a little chilly, so I'm sure they'll be selling a lot of hot chocolate. So there'll be a lot of good local food as well. And we hope everyone comes out. It's a family-friendly event over at the Orlando Amphitheater at the Central Florida Fairgrounds. Doors open at 3 p.m. It goes all the way till probably about 10:30. So you can come whenever. The tickets are sliding scale too. You pay what you can. You can come in for free. You can pay $10. You can pay $100. We are donating a portion of proceeds to local organizations helping immigrant families in Orlando, and also a portion of proceeds go towards supporting the work that we're doing in training up the next generation of people to be involved in politics.
Yeah, you talk about the next generation, and I know you are, the first Gen Z member of Congress, and I'm just curious about how something like this can help engage young people, maybe in a way that maybe they wouldn't otherwise, or maybe they wouldn't think that they would have interest in politics or policy, but something like this may reach them in a way that maybe nothing else would.
Exactly. I always think about what are the type of people who are just not going to come to a Maxwell Frost rally, right? They're not going to come to like a political event. They care. They might agree with me on a lot of things. Maybe they disagree with me on some things, but they want to be involved somehow. And I'm always thinking about it's not just about bringing people to the politics, but it's figuring out the ways that you bring the politics and the advocacy to the people. And arts and culture and concerts, it's very authentic to me. It's who I am. My dad's a musician in Central Florida. I grew up playing at Disney and Bahama Breeze and at my school and in a bunch of places. And so this is like a really natural thing for me to bring together two passions of mine, to put out there. And the whole point of it is to really appeal out to music fans, and have them see the great work going on in Central Florida. There's a lot of doom and gloom in the political world right now. This is an event where we want people to walk away, feel empowered, no matter what's going on across the country. And people feeling like, hey, I can make a difference here in Central Florida, and we can have a good time while we do it, which I think is really important. A lot of times we think about politics as being just serious 100% of the time, which of course it's important to be serious and this and that. But we can't forget that, arts and music, it's part of what makes us human. And I think that when we lose sight of that humanity, that's part of the problem we have in politics. And so this is an event where we'll see people of different political persuasions coming out to hear different messages. And at the end of the day, all be music fans.
And I also hear you're going to be hopping on the drums.
Yes, I'm going to be playing drums with the Renaissance Theater Company, which I'm stoked about. And I might hop on the drums for an Ali and AJ song too. So people should definitely come out, to hear some amazing art.
I just want to get your thoughts on this. As a member of Congress, people probably have an image of you, and I would imagine it's probably cool to kind of get to shed some of that. Take off the shirt and tie and have some fun and show a different side of yourself as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's, something I always did on the campaign is I would ask people, what do you think about when you think about the word politician? And like folks would say, corrupt, liar, doing illegal things, like horrible things. And we'd laugh and I'd say, but this is depressing. We're talking about the people who represent us, who are making the decisions in our community. And so there's a lot of, when I was running, a lot of people on my team and consultants would say, you should say you're not a politician. And I'd always fight back against that and say, actually, I'm going to say I'm a politician because I want to be a small part in this larger effort of changing the way people think about politicians, right? When they think about the people representing them, they should smile. They shouldn't be thinking about corruption and all that. They should think about a human who's from their community, who's going up to represent them. They might agree with them on a lot of things, they might not. But at the end of the day, they know that they have their back. And that's what I seek to do in this district, whether you're Democrat, Republican, no matter what. And it's events like this that I think really help us. It's not about putting aside our differences. It's actually about embracing them and coming together around something that I think connects us all on a very human level, which are the arts. And we're in this point in time in US politics where a lot of people are gaining a lot of power and making a lot of money off of dehumanizing each other. And Mad Soul is an opportunity for us to come together as a community and put all that other stuff to the side and focus on what makes Central Florida beautiful, which I think are the people that live there. So I'm really excited about it, and it's going to be a good event. And yeah, people will see me in, I won't be in a suit and tie, but we'll be playing the drums, having a good time, and still be talking about the important issues that we care about and registering people to vote.
Congressman Maxwell Frost, always good talking with you. We appreciate your time today and appreciate you chatting with us about Mad Soul Fest.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And do want to let you know, coming up a little bit later here on Fox 35 News Plus, we did have the chance to speak with one of those local bands, the Pheromones, that's going to be performing. So stay tuned for that coming up in just a little bit. Right now, we are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Want to let you know we are still keeping an eye on this hearing at the Senate Commerce Committee. You see Jared Isaacman there in the background. The reason you're not listening in right now is there is also the committee is also considering the nomination of another man. This is the gentleman you see here, Assistant Commerce Secretary position. So we are also hearing some testimony from him, some questions for him as well. But we are continuing to keep an eye on that hearing. I've also got for you that we'll play in a little bit some of the opening remarks just to kind of hear what Jared Isaacman had to say about his priorities and that kind of thing. So we are also continuing to monitor the hearing right now in Orange County. This is day 3 of the Tommy Ziegler trial. It's not trial. I keep wanting to say trial. It's an evidentiary hearing for this death row inmate. He was convicted back in 1976. He's been on death row for 50 years. In fact, the oldest and longest serving death row inmate in the state of Florida. Tommy Ziegler, now 80 years old. And this hearing is really his last chance at freedom at this point. He has maintained his innocence and says that a recent DNA testing shows that he is innocent. So we are continuing to hear from experts testifying. One of the big things that they are discussing some of the blood samples and that kind of thing that were found on the scene and in some of the clothing items, a number of other things as well. So we've heard testimony that, like I said, this is day 3, but day 2 really didn't have anything. We heard a couple of experts testify on the first day, on Monday, and then yesterday the attorneys and Ziegler gathered in court. There was a long discussion at the bench with the judge, but then the court dismissed for the day. We're told attorneys wanted some more time to prepare for kind of the next step, which is today. We are hearing from experts testifying, in fact, pointing some things out right now. So let's go ahead and listen in as this hearing continues live right now in Orange County.
It's bigger than the 1 centimeter at all. 1 centimeter if you project it. 1 centimeter. But we can also see nice size and shaped spatter in this area. You see some small spatter in front of it, the satellite spatter coming off because it hit this pillow on an angle. So this size is completely different from this size. So this would be a combination of maybe spatter as well, but it could also be best grip maybe, spatter, and different sizes, the smaller sizes, not being passive drops anymore. More force applied, the droplets become smaller, and they will create smaller droplets and spatter onto the pillow. Then, of course, becomes of interest, even more interest, is these very small. Size and shape, size is about 1 to 2 millimeters, so very small. And then the shape is more or less round. And if those are spatter, then of course the question is how were they created? The big problem is we know that blood dripping into blood, passive drops can create satellite spatter. So if there was a location where passive drops of blood were dripping into blood, we could create very small spatter. But we don't have any passive drop, or we don't have even the location where this pillow was found. So we don't know it. The other possibility is that if it's very small spatter, is that force.
We will continue to monitor that hearing and let you know as things kind of continue with that. I do want to apologize, a little bit hard to hear, especially with him standing up and away from the microphone right now. So we will go ahead and dip out of that so that just because it's hard to hear. So we'll continue to monitor it. We'll get you back inside the courtroom as we need to. We'll try to check in with one of our reporters who is inside the courtroom as well a little bit later, who can give us an update on what has been happening. But we'll keep an eye on that and get you back inside the courtroom when we can. Want to check a couple of our Fox 35 News Plus headlines right now, and you saw a live image earlier from Sky Fox showing a scene in Seminole County where a deadly shooting occurred after what investigators are calling a dispute between drivers. This happened early this morning, some sort of road rage incident. Investigators believe 2 drivers, both of them were armed, got into some sort of altercation, and then shots were fired. And Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has more on what we know.
Yes, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office says it happened here in this neighborhood. The deadly shooting started with 2 drivers, both who were armed. They were driving and got into an altercation where one driver pulled out a gun and shot and killed the other driver. Now, there's no official word of what led up to that, but there is a tire mark path, and we want to show you that right now. You can see that the tire marks start here in the front of this home, and they go through and hit this concrete structure of some sort. It's fully destroyed. We don't know what it is in the first place. But then the tire marks continue down through this lawn into a second lawn and then end up in that backyard. That is where they're currently investigating. Now, again, we don't know what led up to this, but we do know that the second driver, the suspected shooter, stayed on scene, was detained, and is now being held for questioning as they're trying to figure out what happened and the exact events that led up to this whole deadly shooting. Again, this happened here in Longwood just before 1 this morning. Now, neighbors we spoke to, they are absolutely shocked. They cannot believe that this happened in their neighborhood, said it's a very quiet neighborhood and this does not happen here. Take a listen to one man. He's lived here for 40 years and says he can't believe this happened here.
This is crazy. I've lived in this neighborhood 43 years and never seen anything like this. It's a quiet neighborhood, and I don't know, never have any trouble. And you wonder, come speeding through here and shooting guns and stuff. No, this doesn't happen in our neighborhood.
Now, investigators have been out here for hours trying to piece together this puzzle and figure out what exactly led up to this deadly shooting and alleged road rage incident. Once we learn more details, we will keep you updated. For now, reporting in Longwood, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
And as we saw just a little bit ago, we do know investigators still out on that scene even late this morning. Fox 35 continuing to follow up on that, trying to learn some new details and more information about what happened, so we will keep you updated on that. We are also following up on a house fire in Sanford, a devastating house fire. It caused a lot of damage. Fox 35's Marley Capper had the chance to speak with the victims of that fire after investigators say it may be a Tesla in the garage that sparked that fire. Here's Fox 35's Marley Capper with more.
This is just a really shocking situation. I mean, look at the car. You guys can see that it's absolutely burned to a crisp. You can even see wrapping paper for Christmas that was in the garage that's at the front of the Tesla here. And so I think this has just been really devastating for the family. I'd love to introduce you to the father, Mina, and his daughter, Lily. I will note they go to my church. And so this story just hits a little different. Mina, how are you doing today?
Doing well. God is good.
Yeah.
There is hope.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. When you see the car, what's going through your mind?
The scenario that happened yesterday morning was so scary. Everything happened so fast, so quick. I was trying to save my kids, and then I got Lily out. Then I was trying to save my dog. He's in critical condition. Pray for him. But beside that, we're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it happened in the garage. I know it's boarded up now, but walk me through kind of what happened. How did you hear all of this?
So 5:15 a.m. yesterday, I heard cracking sound and popping. I thought Lily's upstairs, like trying to get ready for school. So I went upstairs. She's still sleeping. So I went back to the backyard. I thought an intruder trying to get in. So I went running to my garage to get like something, my firearm, and hide it in the garage, and then figure out there's smoke coming out from the Tesla. Around the Tesla area, black smoke, and I saw like sparks, and so I ran inside, got my kids out, and Lily was a little bit unconscious at this point. She will tell you the rest.
Yeah, okay, so I know this has been really traumatic, so I don't want to bring up too much for you, but you had to jump from the second window to kind of the landing over your guys' back patio. What was going through your mind when all of this was happening?
Honestly, the first thing when I heard the alarms and I heard a little bit of screaming downstairs, everything was muffled. It was all so quick. The first thing was my siblings. Immediately, I sprinted to their rooms, back and forth, to get them, and then the smoke just overtook me.
We were out at the time, just trying to save them, but they were already out the house. But yeah.
I didn't know that, but it took me a couple, definitely set me back, but that was my most important thing. And then that's when I started to lose consciousness, and I kind of threw myself out the window more than anything. But it's by the grace of God that I'm here today, and all glory goes to Him.
Praise God, you guys. Okay, I want to quickly walk you guys inside just to see, you know, Mina did talk to his insurance company, and they did say that it is a total loss. And so it's just kind of emotional stepping in here and seeing the damage. All the walls are completely covered in soot. They're dark. I want to point out this picture here of their family that's just completely crumpled up and burned. Even the light post over here, you guys can see, has melted. And so just standing here, it's very shocking. It just kind of hits you in the chest when you look at this. When you look at your living room, Lily, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, just seeing the burnt picture of my mom over there kind of hurts, and remembering all the pictures that we used to have on the wall, because it was our family wall. It definitely hurts, and all the memories that were made in this living room. But the Lord loves us so much because He allowed us to get out of this safely, and we have such an amazing church family that they are blessing us, and they are helping us, and they are taking care of us. Even a couple people yesterday just wanted to hang out, make sure we're okay, take us out. They took us out for lunch, and little things like that just show how much the Lord loves you, and He will bless you abundantly with people. It's just so amazing. Even though you lost something so important in your life, everything else gets amplified with joy and love.
Glad they are okay. Certainly a scary scene there. When you see how much damage was done and hearing them describe getting out of that house, and certainly glad they are okay. I want to give you a live look right now inside that Orange County courtroom. There is Tommy Ziegler, 80 years old, on death row. It looks like we are in some sort of break right now, potentially for this hearing, this evidentiary hearing that's expected to last for a week. Again, we will check in with Fox 35's Matt Trezza coming up in a little bit. When they take a lunch break in this hearing, so we'll get you up to date on what all's been going on today. There is Tommy Ziegler. We know from speaking with Matt earlier in the week that he has a number of family, friends, supporters inside the courtroom this week. He has maintained for years that he was innocent, even though he was convicted of the death of his wife, his in-laws, and a customer at his family's furniture store in Winter Garden on Christmas Eve back in 1975. We are going to take a break right now here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, a little bit of a cooler start to today.
A little bit, yeah. We had a cold front move through last night, leaving behind some clouds. And instead of being in the 80s, we're going to be in the 70s today. So it's a subtle cool down. Probably few complaining. It'll feel pretty good this afternoon. Not quite as humid as yesterday. Here's a look outside where it's pushing 70 degrees downtown under, well, the clouds are breaking up. I'd say partly cloudy skies. We had earlier an overcast, and now we're starting to see those break up as the sunshine breaks through. But it's making for some nice scenes for the tourists in town. There's a shot from Disney Springs of the hot air balloon on the skyline. Well, weather-wise around the country, we've got a surge of cold air moving into the Midwest, and this is producing some snow, the first significant snow for the Front Range communities of Boulder, Denver, and Colorado Springs so far this season. Better late than never, but it's really late this season. That said, this is going to be a system that ultimately pushes into Florida, and in doing so brings rain. But that's a live view from Arvada, Colorado, which is a little town between Denver and Boulder on Colorado 93. And you can see cars there are moving along. Oh, there we go, a little fishtail action with that SUV. Yep, there's another one. Oh boy, get a little squirrely there.
Especially when you get those rear-wheel drive pickup trucks
Yeah, that's right.
struggling in there. You got to weigh that back down.
I know. It's the old joke in Colorado is that you keep it in two-wheel drive until you need the four-wheel drive. So if you're stuck, then you put it in four-wheel drive, but until then you just roll because you get better mileage at two-wheel drive. But yeah, boy, that is a scene. That is a scene in Arvada, Colorado. All right, so we're going to have a piece of that system come our way, but it's not going to be anything close to as cold as we're getting right now in Colorado. Actually, the source of this cold air is up in the upper Midwest, where tonight in Minneapolis and in Des Moines, it'll be below zero. In fact, it could be between 10 and 20 degrees below zero, depending on where you are in Iowa and Minnesota. We have to track these very carefully from our perch here in Florida because these can easily take a southern trajectory, and when they do, obviously they can bring a plethora of problems and wreak havoc. But this one's going to go almost due east, so it's heading toward Detroit, Chicago, and on into New York and Boston before pulling out of that region. But what this is going to do is push a cold front farther south than it would otherwise go. Now, it's not to say it's going to get really cold around here, but it will get really rainy around here as we'll be closer to the frontal zone. And that happens on Sunday. And this will be the most significant rain for our region in over a month. You got to go back to October 27th to find the potential soaking that we are looking forward to on Sunday. And I say it like that because we need the rain at this point, especially the Panhandle. They could get rain as soon as Friday through Saturday and Sunday. Tallahassee really needs the rain. They're in the middle of what's called an extreme to exceptional drought. So they need a lot of rain. They could get 4 or 5 inches. We here on Sunday may see a half inch to as much as an inch or 2. The farther north you go, the more rain you'll get. Gainesville might see 2 inches. But don't cancel your plans on the weekend. Just keep an eye to the weather. This could change. Saturday looks to be mainly dry, although clouds will increase. There could be a couple late day showers, highs in the low to mid 80s. Sunday the front comes through and it looks like it'll be kind of squirrely through the day. Probably not the best day for outdoor plans. Clears out on Monday. Here's a look at some of the preliminary rainfall totals, and this is the slow march as we head into Friday. You can see the timestamp on the top right. Into the day Saturday, most of this stays north of us, but then all of a sudden Sunday, we'll start to see some downpours rolling through North Florida and then on into Central Florida by Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. We may get anywhere from 0.2 to as many as 0.9 of rain, almost an inch of rain. So crossing fingers. All right, here's the 7-day forecast. It is going to be really pleasant and warming up, about 76 tomorrow, 83 on Friday, 81 on Saturday, and then a little bit cooler behind that front. It looks like upper 60s to around 70 for next week, Monday and Tuesday. So yes, Garrett, we need the rain, and so this will be nice soaking coming around on Sunday, but it sure is a reminder when you see those wintry scenes in places like Colorado, how good we have it here.
Yeah, and you see those negative temperatures on the map there too. Certainly, we'll take the low of 55. We will take that.
A little bit nicer than if you shed a tear of the cold, it freezes on your cheek.
Yeah, brutal. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Garrett.
Give you a live look right now at this noon hour of downtown Orlando and a beautiful Lake Eola there. Bird flying right in front of our camera. It is a nice day on this hump day here, middle of the week of this, first week of December? First week of December. Time is flying. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A lunch break right now for the evidentiary hearing involving Tommy Ziegler, who is convicted in a 1975 Christmas Eve quadruple murder. It is day 3 of that hearing. And Fox 35's Matt Trezza has been in the courtroom for all of it. He joins us live now from the Orange County Courthouse. And Matt, we appreciate you joining us today. I know yesterday not a whole lot happened, but we have heard some testimony today. So get us caught up on what's been going on so far today.
Good morning. So yes, it is, well, good afternoon now. They just broke for lunch. So what we've been hearing is expert testimony throughout the morning from a Richard Eichenblum. He is a blood spatter expert, and he's been testifying as to some of the particulars of the blood spatter that was found at the scene on the victims, and the defense trying to build their narrative around the the blood evidence that was found at the scene on the different victims in this case. It has been highly technical, calling up different articles of clothing, the positions of bodies on the floor, the furniture, the area, talking even about a pillow that had blood spatter on it, all trying to kind of like put together through the story of where the blood was at the scene, to put it together in their narrative of how the events of that night, the murders of these 4 people went about happening.
And so these are witnesses now being called by the defense?
Yes, this is a defense witness, and it's not these. At this point, it has only been one gentleman throughout the morning and probably into the afternoon as well.
All right, you talk about how technical this is. Just give us an idea of some of the things that they are kind of bringing up in their testimony, and I know you had said before, kind of the battle of experts here.
Exactly. It is well underway, and so we're talking both about the physical and the chemical properties of the blood. So the physical properties of it being its shape, its direction, its for example, this morning, before they even went into the description of where the blood was found on the victims and around the scene, they went into the description of what different types of blood could be found and the definitions of them. What does blood spatter look like? What does back spatter look like? Where does the blood go when somebody is shot in the head from close range, from a far distance away? Getting all the different definitions down. Where is blood? How does blood operate when it is dropped from above, whereas if it's dripped from a person while that person is moving? How does it pool on the floor? All the different things like that before they even went into laying the foundations for their discussion, before they went even into the circumstances of where the blood was found at the scene. And then the chemical and genetic components of it. Where was the DNA? Obviously blood carries DNA. What kind of sample was it? Was it touch DNA? Was it, for example, could be a hand placed on a victim's clothes that left DNA there, or was it from a blood sample? Where did it come from? How long had it been there? How long could it have been significantly degraded over the course of time? So all these different questions, again, very highly technical, but all together trying to put the puzzle pieces together that in totality, should, in theory, lay out the defense's theory of what happened that night.
Some grisly details, no doubt, to hear that talk. But obviously, when you're talking about
photographs as well, yes.
Yeah, but obviously that the key kind of evidence that is at the center of this hearing and what is essentially his last chance to get off of death row.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I mean, it's all, like I said, it's kind of a puzzle. So each piece of evidence, each thing that an expert talks about, even though it may not necessarily seem in and of itself a significant thing, altogether it allows the defense to paint their picture of what happened that night and say, well, the blood was here, the blood wasn't there. It was this person's blood, not that person's blood. It was this DNA, not that DNA. And again, in totality, should, in the hopes of the defense, put together their theory of the crime.
I know this is something that Tommy Ziegler and his supporters, whoever else may be there, have been through time and time again. He is the longest-serving death row inmate. We know there's been a long legal road to even get to this point. But I'm curious if they have any sort of reaction or what they're doing as all of this is kind of playing out in court.
Not much at this point. I mean, certainly during the proceedings, I mean, there's total silence. Everybody is just listening. However, during the breaks, they step outside, they commiserate with each other. And then on the other side, there are other relatives from other parts of the family. There was some of them sitting in front of me, in fact, in the courtroom, as they were hearing some of this testimony, particularly about Perry and Virginia Edwards, Ziegler's parents-in-law. They were crying. They were hugging each other. They were wiping their eyes, tears from their eyes. So there are not outward shows of emotion, but certainly a lot of underlying emotions being felt among the members of the audience.
What can we expect this afternoon, Matt? More of what we heard this morning?
Yes. So the break happened in the middle of the testimony, and we are going to go right back to Mr. Eichenblum's testimony about DNA and blood spatter and all those highly technical details as soon as lunch wraps up.
All right. Fox 35's Matt Trezza, we appreciate you joining us with an update from the courthouse this afternoon.
Happy to. Thanks.
We will keep an eye on things and more developments from the courthouse there. Right now, we're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Weimer here. I want to get you inside another hearing on Capitol Hill. This is a House Homeland Security Committee hearing about anti-law enforcement rhetoric and how it fuels violence against police officers. This is Michael Hughes right now speaking. He's the executive director of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. He is answering in response to a question from a member of Congress from Texas. Now, keep in mind this hearing comes in the aftermath of 2 National Guard members who were shot in Washington, D.C. last week. Here in Central Florida, an Indian River County Sheriff's deputy was shot and killed. We brought you their funeral live yesterday. We've also been continuing to follow stories out of St. Lucie County, where a Port St. Lucie police officer was shot earlier this week. So we are continuing to see violence against police and law enforcement officers. Let's go ahead and listen in as this House hearing continues about anti-police rhetoric and violence.
I've done a lot of ride-alongs with these sheriffs. I mean, they're on the front lines. I view them as frontline leaders. My question for you is on these task forces. I'm a big fan of task forces. I think the anti-gang and anti-terrorism task force, often led by DHS or FBI, I think those work. I've spent a lot of money, or spent a lot of time and energy making sure that those work. In your opinion, what is your thoughts on these anti-gang terrorism or task forces and the role that sheriffs should be playing?
Well, thank you for the question, sir. I appreciate it. Two thoughts. One, task forces have been around for decades. They go back to organized crime days of the 30s and even further back in many ways. They are around because they do work. It brings together a team approach, a holistic approach to responding to either perceived crime, actual crime, or the recovery from crime. So they do work, and they have the. I want to make one point. Crime in this country has changed. It's much more sophisticated than it's ever been. The cartels have more money, more time, more interest in doing what they do. That's why, in my estimation, I think the president did do the right thing by designating the cartels as terrorist groups. The point I'm making, though, is that for this committee especially, I think we all need to recognize that with the sophistication and the breadth and absolute indoctrination into our country of these cartels, we have to do things differently. We have to do them vastly different. We need a greater sense of urgency on cybersecurity. You saw that in my testimony. We need to invest in that, especially in these smaller agencies. Number two, I think we have to recognize that with these task forces are going to come some pains, some growing pains and some changes. So we all have to recognize, and I'm hearing that from all of my sheriffs, is that we need to be helpful, whether it's a small agency in the rural part of the country or a large agency. We're going to have to be a little bit more flexible as we look at things.
Wonderful, thank you, and I couldn't agree more. When local, state, and federal agencies are coming together, that's exactly how we tackle this problem. In my last 30 seconds, this is for Mr. Yo's. You mentioned in your testimony, as of the end of November, 314 officers have been killed in the line of duty. I'm from San Antonio. I represent a very large district that goes all the way to El Paso, but I was shocked that my police officers in San Antonio do not have bulletproof vehicles. Zero. There are 0 bulletproof vehicles. And when I tried to help them get bulletproof vehicles, it was liberal mayors and liberal city councils that prevented that from happening. My question is this. I have a bill that helps local law enforcement officers get bulletproof glass vehicles. Do you think that would help keep our police officers safe?
Absolutely, not just ballistic glass, but there's also ballistic panels that could be put in a vehicle as well. And I'll just contrast it to, cities have a number of employees. They do a number of different functions. And we don't hesitate to provide safety benefits, safety material for other employees to make their job safe. Law enforcement officers have inherently a very unsafe job. Because let's just be honest. There are people in society that many would like to think don't exist, and we deal with them. And so giving us the tools necessary to do our job and go home to the end of our families, that's 2,553 families that have been shot. And let me tell you, the numbers are staggering how many were killed. But what's even more staggering is this is lives that have been changed. Medicine, ballistic equipment, trauma response, these things have brought these numbers down. So gladly and luckily, we've been able to save a lot of lives, but that doesn't mean they're not trying to kill us.
Thank you again, gentlemen, for your service, and thank you, Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentlelady from New Jersey, Ms. McIver, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and thank you to our ranking member and to our witnesses for joining us today. Thank you for serving our communities. Specifically to you, Mr. Hodges, I am just in awe to see you here today, and I want to thank you for your service, specifically for protecting this very institution. It's unfortunate that Mr. Crane had to run out of here for my comments, but I want to apologize to you for his comments, because for him to have the audacity to be disrespectful to you, giving your honorable service to protecting this very body, is a shame. Republicans only have respect for law enforcement that supports their political agenda. That is a given here that we see all the time. There's no shocker to anyone on this committee, and definitely no shocker to me, that yet another hearing, I live rent-free space in Mr. Crane's head over and over again while he's obsessing about me doing my job of oversight while he continues to fail to do his job to service the people of Arizona, while there's a detention center that had deaths there, and yet to this day, Mr. Crane refuses to have oversight and go there and visit that detention center, but steady worrying about me here doing my job, then using the power that his constituents have given him by electing him to do his job. Before I begin into my comments about this specific hearing, I want to take a moment to honor the National Guard officer who tragically lost her life in the horrific shooting last week, and to extend my prayers to the guardsman who is still fighting for his life. Their bravery reminds us of the tremendous risk our service members take every single day. We have all seen the National Guard deploy into communities, not to support law enforcement missions, but to wander down residential streets, help with yard work just outside the Capitol, or simply serve as a political scenery. Now 500 more guardsmen are being sent into Washington, D.C. because this administration is choosing optics over strategy and politics over safety. These people should not be placed in harm's way to serve as props in the president's twisted agenda. But my colleagues across the aisle didn't call this hearing to talk about solutions. They aren't interested in those. What they are trying to do is point fingers so they can deflect blame. They want to convince the American people that Democratic rhetoric is the issue. It is not Democrats who are praising, let alone pardoning, people who stormed this very Capitol complex to beat police officers and hunt down elected officials. It is Donald Trump who pardoned more than 1,500 January 6 rioters. I hope we can all agree, as we keep saying out of our mouths here, that any form of violence is unacceptable. Show me, say it. Gun violence continues to threaten our communities and the officers sworn to protect them, and we should be focused on real solutions rooted in public safety. But I do not want to hear selective, phony outrage about rhetoric from people who only sometimes, when it's beneficial to them, want to protect law enforcement. Let's not forget, as violence threats surged across this country, the Trump administration froze billions of dollars to counterterrorism and nonprofit security grant funds. The very money meant to protect synagogues, mosques, churches, and even HBCUs and other community institutions. Republicans stood by silently as their own administration stripped away critical protections from grantees they now claim to care about. So when Republicans sit here today and try to lecture anyone about supporting the rule of law and those who work to uphold it, the hypocrisy is alarming. They have repeatedly proposed cuts to the very agencies that keep officers and communities safe. They have embraced violent rhetoric from their leader, rhetoric that includes open calls for the murder of political opponents. They have abandoned the officers who defended this Capitol on January 6th and instead wrapped their arms around the people who attacked them. In Newark, my district, violent crime has gone down by 23% because we invested in real community-based intervention, trauma-informed crisis response, and real community policing. When we talk about real action, we see real results. On the other hand, political stunts, military deployed on American city streets, mass ICE agents tearing through communities, these things make us unsafe. In my district, we choose trust over terror, partnership over provocation, and the result speaks for themselves. So let's do some real work on this committee, and let's leave here with some solutions, not just comments and statements every week. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Strong, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. Our brave law enforcement officers put their lives on the line every day to uphold our laws and protect Americans. We deserve every tool and protection necessary to carry out their mission safely and effectively without fear of being targeted simply for doing their job. Mr. Hughes, DHS has reported an 8,000% increase in threats, doxing, and direct attacks against federal law enforcement. In Alabama, we felt the impact of rising violence. We've lost dedicated law enforcement officers who made the ultimate sacrifice. What do you think is driving this escalation, and how has it changed the way officers approach their daily duties?
Thank you, Congressman. What is really alarming, I think, to a lot of us is the normalization of this anti-rhetoric. We have to understand that police officers are enforcing the laws. They're enforcing the laws that this body makes and that the elected officials make. And when we have that anti-rhetoric on law enforcement officers, it just fuels the fire. A lot of it's social media. We see social media that puts out information that isn't necessarily true all the time, and it just fuels the flames. And it makes the violence against police officers seem normal. It's not right. It's against the law, and we need to do something about it.
Thank you. I want to shift briefly to the intelligence side of this, because when we see coordinated ambushes and targeted attacks, it raises serious questions about prevention. Mr. Hughes, are there specific intelligence sharing gaps between federal, state, and local agencies that make it harder to detect or prevent coordinated attacks against officers?
You know, after 9/11, we're supposed to really be filling these gaps with intelligence and sharing of information. But we need more. We need better sharing of information. We need to be sharing information, federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, to make sure that all law enforcement has the information to make informed decisions. That's what you all do. That's what we need to do as well. If we are missing pieces of information, that will affect the operational effectiveness.
Thank you. Turning to our state and local partners, we're hearing that this isn't just a federal challenge. It's hitting sheriff's deputies, local police across the country. Mr. Thompson, are you seeing a measurable recruitment or retention impact at the local level as a result of these threats and the more hostile talks around policing?
We are indeed. I know of several agencies, sheriff's offices, PDs as well, that are short bodies in the neighborhood of 40–45%, some even higher. Let's remember, smaller agencies are always even more difficultly confronted with these challenges. You have 10 deputies and you lose 3 people. The time to replace those it's months to get that done. It's happening on an increased pace. We're seeing it slow a bit, but it's still very, very bad.
I speak from a firsthand knowledge. I served 26 years in local government. I was the chairman of the Madison County Commission, and I can tell you this right here. What we did to solve some of these problems was we doubled the size of law enforcement in our county. It made a substantial difference. I know that Representative Gonzalez mentioned about bulletproof vehicles. I bought 2 what are known as Bearcats for our community, and I can tell you this right here. It worked for our sheriff's department. It will work for other law enforcement throughout this country. It is a very good investment to save lives. Rather than having to go through a door, you've got the ability to use less than lethal options by using tear gas inside that, make them come out, and it works. You start looking at all the different things that you do, and these working together is what makes law enforcement safer. But I will say another area I'm concerned about is the way technology is now weaponizing against law enforcement, not just against officers themselves, but also against their families. We're seeing unauthorized tracking tools and online platforms that publicize officers' location in real time. On top of that, we've seen officers' home addresses, their children's school locations, and even family photos posted online in coordination with doxing campaigns. My question to you is, are you seeing that at each of your levels? I'll start with you, Mr. Thompson.
We are seeing it. It's an exponential growth, and the public release of privileged information, law enforcement, PII is considered privileged information in nearly every state, but nevertheless, we're seeing it. It's growing radically, and it's having a devastating effect.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Johnson, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I want to begin by echoing the sentiments of my colleagues that violence is never the answer and that we all must hold our own accountable. And we're here today to discuss how violent actions and rhetoric fuels the problems that we're having in this country. And I want to respond to a couple things, because what is striking me is this incredible hypocrisy of this conversation, which is no one in this committee, no one in this Congress condones violence against our law enforcement. No one. At all. And any insinuation that we are encouraging violence against law enforcement is just outrageous and should not be tolerated. But I think what we're also seeing here is a silence of people who are refusing to criticize ICE agents in particular, who are going outside of their authority and abusing their power in a violent way against American citizens. And there is silence on the condemnation of that. I haven't heard anyone in this panel, except for maybe Officer Hodges, criticize that. I think part of the problem is, I am a big fan of Dallas Police Department. I have worked closely with them. I'm so supportive of them, and I agree with the comments that we need to double down to keep our law enforcement safe. It is outrageous to me, this indignation that we're having by Republicans who have voted to consistently defund efforts that keep officers safe, as many of my colleagues have pointed out. And addressing gun violence, for example. More officers are killed in gun violence and mass shootings that have nothing to do with a predisposition against ICE. But yet we're not talking about that. But that is a direct threat to the safety of law enforcement. And what we see here, though, is we have bad cops and we have bad ICE agents. And right now, the American public has a laser focus on some of these ICE agents who are exercising their authority and their power in a very abusive and uncontrolled way. I was going to offer a video today of a gentleman who is an American citizen who's 79 years old, whose business was targeted in a raid, and he was trying to show the valid papers of his employees. Instead, he was tackled and ramshackled to the ground in a very violent way, fracturing his ribs, giving him a brain injury, as an American citizen who did not one thing wrong. And I think what we're really missing here in this conversation is that ICE agents are frequently acting with a lack of probable cause. To the point of, I think, one of the conversations that you said, Mr. Hodges, is that when you erode the rule of law, you erode the confidence in law enforcement. And we've had a complete erosion of the enforcement of probable cause for law enforcement to engage in an arrest and to engage in an activity and an experience with a member of the public. And that is a problem. And we have to address that too. And what you're seeing is a public outcry and an outrage. And maybe Gestapo's not the right word, maybe Nazi's not the right word, but you have to acknowledge that there is a pulse of the American people right now that are scared and they're terrified because we have members of our law enforcement community who are there to protect, serve and protect, who are instead harassing and intimidating, and they're not being reined in by their own agency. And that has to be part of this discussion.
Interesting conversation in this U.S. House Homeland Security Committee hearing about anti-police rhetoric and violence. We're going to take a break right now here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We're learning more about the arrest of a man in Marion County, now charged with 2 rapes. A disturbing case, disturbing allegations, and certainly serious charges now against this man who is behind bars. I want to bring in Zachary Woods from the Marion County Sheriff's Office, who joins us live now. He's the public information officer with the Sheriff's Office. And Zach, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
It's a disturbing case. What can you tell us about the arrest of Dion Latrell Southall?
Yeah, so our major crimes detectives have arrested 30-year-old Dion Southall for 2 counts of sexual battery with the use of force or a deadly weapon, as well as 1 count of battery by strangulation. So from 2 separate investigations, one that began in May of this year and another in September, we obtained information that Southall has raped 2 victims. He made contact with them through various means, and they had no idea who he was. During his encounter with them, he became aggressive. He threatened them with violence, demanded that they remove their clothing, and then ultimately raped them.
How were investigators able to track him down? How did this this investigation kind of zero in on him?
Yeah, so our major crimes detectives, they noticed similarities between these 2 cases. They were around the same area, the same modus operandi, a lot of very similar circumstances. So they worked together, they obtained evidence from the crime scenes, and they ultimately sent those off to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for a DNA analysis. After receiving those results, it was pretty clear that Southall was the one. Like, the DNA that came back from these items included DNA profiles from the victims as well as from Southall.
And you also believe he was using a fake social media profiles or social media profiles to try to lure in some victims. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so in the case from May, he had sent a Facebook friend request to our victim which appeared to be from a white male named Chris Rouse. He and the victim spoke for about 3 days and decided to meet up in person. But when the victim arrived to the meeting location, Chris Rouse was not there. The Facebook profile that she'd been messaging with told her to go to the back of a business in the area. There was a walking trail that would take her to the neighborhood where Chris supposedly lived. And at that point, she felt that she was being watched. She felt uncomfortable, and she noticed Southall hiding in the bushes nearby. And from there, that's when she was confronted by Southall, threatened with violence, and then raped.
Zach, that's scary.
It's very terrifying.
And so what's your message to people? Because our understanding is that that investigators believe there may be more victims.
Yeah, so based on the nature of these crimes and the fact that there's such a similarity in exactly how each rape was carried out, there's a clear pattern here. And our detectives believe that he's probably done this to other people. So our biggest, I think, takeaway from this entire thing is for anyone else who is a victim of Southall or who knows a victim of Southall to come forward. Contact us on our non-emergency line, the 352-732-9111, so that we can ultimately get justice for all of the victims and also hold him accountable for his actions.
Why is something like this so serious and so frightening to hear about in the community?
It's so frightening because Southall is preying on innocent people and doing so with extreme violence. We are incredibly proud of these victims for coming forward, for letting us know so that we can investigate their case thoroughly. And our detectives did an incredible job. We're proud of them as well. And our partnership with FDLE to get this evidence back and ultimately get Southall where he belongs, behind our jail bars.
And what is your message to others who may hear about this and have some concerns as well? We know this suspect is obviously behind bars, but this is something that we hear about, happening from time to time, and in this day and age especially. What do you recommend to people?
So yeah, it's just a general safety thing. I believe is to, especially when it's late at night, when you're alone, stay out in the open, stay in well-lit areas. If something seems a little bit off, trust your gut instinct. Verify who you're speaking with, especially if it's online. Anybody can make a fake Facebook profile, as we see in that first case in May. But also just be vigilant, be aware, be observant, and ensure that you have your safety in mind, because this can happen.
So what is next for Dion Latrell Southall and what charges he's facing?
So he's currently in our jail. He's been in our jail since November 5th on the charges from the second case in July on a warrant. He remains in our jail without bond, and now he'll go through the court process. It's up to the state attorney's office to file those charges and prosecute this case in the court system to determine, if he's still going to be held on no bond and things of that nature.
Well, Zach Moore, Public Information Officer with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus and sharing some words of warning to folks out there. You can never be too careful these days. We appreciate your advice.
Thank you, Garrett.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. I want to take you to the state capitol in Tallahassee, where just a little bit ago we heard from members of the State Senate Democratic Caucus holding a news conference about immigration legislation and some steps and things that they hope to see in the upcoming legislative session. I want to play for you this news conference from just a little bit ago. You are going to hear from Senate Democratic Caucus leader Lori Berman and a number of others as well in this news conference, including State Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, Democrat from Orlando. So let's get you to that news conference that happened just a little bit ago in Tallahassee.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, Governor DeSantis extended his so-called state of emergency on immigration for the 18th time. What started in January 2023 has morphed into an unchecked on Alligator Alcatraz and no accountability as this money has been spent. The governor has made a mockery of the emergency powers granted to him by the Florida Constitution. And I think it's long past time for the Florida legislature to exercise our rights as a co-equal branch of government and to rein this in. With that, we have filed 3 bills on this issue, and I will start with my colleague, Senator Polsky. Will go through the bills, and then we'll take some questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader Berman. I have filed Senate Concurrent Resolution 704, which will terminate the current state of emergency as declared by Executive Order 23-03. The state of emergency was originally declared by the governor 3 days after being sworn into office in January 2023 and justified by him due to Joe Biden's presidency and the southwest border crossing numbers being at record highs. A state of emergency is supposed to be limited in nature, no more than 60 days. But the governor has renewed the state of emergency, as Senator Burns said, 18 times over the past 3 years, resulting in over a 1,000-day-long state of emergency, even though the governor skirt more than 24 state laws, including those related to requirements for competitive bidding, oversight of excessive spending, proper licensing, public transparency, and safety restrictions. These powers are being abused, and the very unfortunate part is that a lot of the contracts that have been hidden are all in the name of handing out lucrative no-bid contracts to his campaign donors and political allies. We know that a lot of this money and emergency powers have been used to construct Alligator Alcatraz, and we still don't have all the information on the contracts for that. The concurrent resolution I have filed would terminate the state of emergency and once again subject the governor to the standard rules of operation. This is one of the limited options for the legislature to check the emergency powers of the executive. This legislation would still preserve the ability to declare future states of emergency when necessary, as is provided for in Statute 252.36. The legislature made sure to preserve and clarify this power in 2021 in response to the ongoing state of emergency related to COVID-19. It's time for the legislature to use its oversight ability to step up and rein in the governor's unprecedented abuse of emergency powers. I'm honored to work with Leader Berman, Senator Smith, and the rest of my Democratic colleagues to rectify this problem and advocate for our state. Senator Smith.
Thank you, Senator Polsky, and thanks to everyone here for paying attention to this really, really important issue. What I have right here in front of us is the original emergency declaration from Governor DeSantis in 2023, the original so-called immigration state of emergency that mentions Biden's so-called border crisis no less than 4 times. It's full of obsolete information that no longer applies to the current state of affairs in Florida. And yet, the governor has used this executive order, this dated executive order, as an excuse to be able to enrich his Republican donors with hundreds of millions of dollars in no-bid contracts with public money to build their disgusting Everglades detention camp in the middle of the Florida Everglades. This executive order should not be renewed. As you already heard, it has been extended almost 20 times with no oversight, no accountability from the Florida legislature, no real questions asked about where this money is going, who is benefiting from this money. How many detainees do we even have at the Everglades detention camp? We don't know. We don't know because the governor, who claims to be a law and order governor, is using his emergency authority as an excuse to circumvent 25 Florida laws. He's using it for a number of reasons. As reported by the Miami Herald his emergency executive powers, emergency orders, have allowed him to skirt Florida laws that require those who select contractors to put in writing that they have no conflicts of interest. So conflict of interest laws have been ignored by this governor. Background check requirements for people supposed to be working in these facilities have been ignored. We also know that transparency laws that require government agency purchases to be posted online have also been skirted under his emergency power. We know that he doesn't have to follow any requirements for competitive bidding to make sure that we are efficiently using public money, because this is Doge, right? This is the Doge state where we are FOing every single day and making sure that we are effectively using public dollars, except, of course, when those public dollars, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars, are being used to fund no-bid contracts to build the Everglades detention camp, and much, much more, in ways that are extremely corrupt and definitely about grifting off of public dollars. Our bill, Senate Bill 700, is about making sure that future governors, whether they be Democrat or Republican, are not able to abuse their emergency authority for political purposes or to engage in political stunts, as Governor DeSantis has done. Senate Bill 700 will do a few things. It will ensure that no state of emergency order can extend beyond 1 year. And if the legislature wants to make an exception to extend that emergency order, they can do so with a 2/3 majority vote of both the Florida House and the Senate, ensuring that a co-equal branch of government, the Florida legislature, has oversight and input on these states of emergency, and that if they do extend the state of emergency, they must allow it to expire at a date certain, no later than the next legislative session. This is good policy. This is important as an oversight function of a co-equal branch of government, the Florida legislature, and it ensures that we are efficiently using our taxpayer dollars, not squandering them for political stunts. Thank you for joining us today. I will now pass it over to our House Democratic leader, Fentress Driscoll.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Senator Smith, and to my Senate colleagues. I think Senator Smith covered quite a lot of it, but really this bill is about the restoration of separation of powers. And what we've seen with this particular governor is willing to abuse his power. When you talk about an emergency order, you think about the emergency power that's placed within the executive. One would presume that that power would be used responsibly and always to the benefit of the people. But what we've seen with this governor is that he is so ambitious that he's willing to use the purse, the state's taxpayer resources. He's willing to use every angle to make things political. I mean, when we saw what happened with the migrant flights, I think that is when we thought we reached a new low, when he took taxpayer dollars to move non-Floridians from not Florida to not Florida. And then we saw Alligator Alcatraz, which was an abomination and, to me, just the definition of cruelty. So we need this check, we need this balance restored to our state government, and I'm so honored to be the House sponsor carrying this bill. With that, let me turn it back over to Leader Berman. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard about the two other bills and why they're necessary. And we also have a third bill, and it's a little bit different, but it's because of the fact of what's going on with the emergency order right now. And as you heard from Senator Smith, we don't know how anything is being implemented here in this state. So the final bill we have to present is Senate Bill 708. And 708 requires the State Immigration Board to create a state immigration enforcement action database. It will ensure transparency for individuals who are detained by the state. Last week, ProPublica reported that dozens of children have been separated from their families in routine traffic stops, spending weeks or months in federal shelters after detaining their parents on immigration charges. Nearly 50 children have been arrested by Florida police on federal immigration charges. And these numbers are only available because a journalist did the work to piecemeal the sparse information together, just as months of previous reporting by multiple outlets gave us a rough idea about who is detained at Alligator Alcatraz. As legislators, we shouldn't have to find that information out in the news. The public has a right to know what the government is doing with our friends and neighbors. A state immigration enforcement actions database will create the transparency that our Florida Constitution demands and would allow the legislature to more effectively exercise our oversight powers at a time when the executive branch is operating largely unchecked. These are all great bills. I'd like to thank my colleagues for sponsoring them and for joining me here today. I hope that our friends across the aisle can see the need to fully exercise our power as a co-equal branch of government and rein in the governor. We'll be happy to take any questions now about the legislation. Forrest?
I know you just addressed it, but what do you think is the actual willingness of the GOP majority to take up some of these measures and put a check on the executive?
I mean, we've seen as this legislation is going this year that we have addressed some willingness to take up issues. We've seen in the House particularly, my House colleague left, but thank you for being here, Leader Driscoll, that they've taken up some issues. And I think that we have a governor who's in his last term, and I hope that we have a legislature that understands it is our responsibility to hold him accountable, especially as he's using our taxpayer money so freely and so unchecked without any checks or balances.
I wonder, because I think it's important hearing your words, why is illegal immigration in Florida, why should it not be considered worthy of a state of emergency?
First of all, I think the definition of emergency means it's urgent. I think if we have a problem with immigration in Florida, it should be done on a policy basis. And that's where it should be happening, not through emergency orders where there's no checks and balances, there's nothing. If we in the Florida legislature feel that immigration is a problem, even though I personally believe it's a federal issue and it should be decided on the federal level, but if there's something that should be done in the state of Florida, it should be done through the legislative process, not through emergency orders.
When it comes to the database for immigration, what would the state be required to provide to the public?
There's a lot of information in there. If you read the bill, it's pretty specific. I mean, there's things like the person's date of birth, where they were detained, what they were picked up on, where they're being detained, if they've been taken out of state, where they were taken out of state. And it would have to be published within 48 hours after they pick the individual up. So it would be available for everyone. We've seen in this state, people have come to us and say, my friend, my neighbor was picked up and we can't figure out where they are. I mean, that's absurd that we don't have that information if they're in fact being picked up by the state of Florida. And that's, the bill specifically speaks when it's being done in conjunction with the state.
Senator Berman and colleagues, the question I have has to do with the sort of the legal ambiguity of Alligator Alcatraz. Judge Williams basically shut it down. The state appealed, and the state got a stay in a federal appeals court, I believe.
Yes.
So it's still open.
Correct.
But the future appears nebulous. What about that, and how does that at all relate to the legislation you're promoting?
You want to go for it?
Sure. Thank you,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you point out something really, really important, which is the legal ambiguity that is the existence of the Everglades detention camp. We have seen the state argue from both sides of their mouth in court on this. If it is lawmakers like myself and Senator Jones and others from the House of Representatives who have had to sue the state of Florida in order for us to exercise our rightful oversight authority to visit this state-run detention camp, as we are allowed to do under Florida law. We visit our state prisons and detention facilities all the time without any notice or any advanced appointment needed for us to be able to exercise those oversight authorities, in court, the state will say, you don't have that oversight authority because this is a federal facility. And then when they get sued on the federal basis, they say in court, oh, you can't require us to follow these federal environmental standards for the Everglades camp because this is a state-run facility. Well, which is it? You can't have it both ways. The Florida legislature needs to be able to exercise our statutory oversight authority that extends well beyond just unannounced visits, which we need to be able to do to see what's happening at this site that is being run not by the federal government, it's being run by the Florida Division of Emergency Management. We also needed to know what contracts are being issued, what rate are we paying for these contracts, why are we doing this? One of a former Republican state senator, Jeff Brandes, has pointed out correctly many times that if these detainees would have simply been held in state facilities that already exist, where we spend just under $30,000 a year to incarcerate individuals, that we would be spending much less than we are now. Right now, the back of the napkin math tells us that we're spending close to $100,000 a year for someone to be detained at the Everglades detention camp. Why are we spending so much more money on this site? What is the strategic importance of putting this in the Florida Everglades at such tremendous cost? The answer is grift, enriching Republican donors, and creating a political stunt. And the other thing that I want to point out, because you asked about, you know, the willingness of our Republican colleagues to support these measures. Look, we have Republican colleagues on X right now, if you scroll through, who are criticizing the Republican Party for this extreme deportation agenda that has swept up people who have been living in this country for decades, who have not committed any crimes. They're speaking out. We're asking them to join us in these efforts to make these efforts bipartisan.
I wanted to just add, with respect to the legal ambiguity, we have an attorney general in Uthmeier who designed this baby, the Everglades Detention Center. And if there is some legal ambiguity, let's say the appellate court upholds Judge Williams's order, I don't know that he's going to listen to it, and they'll keep appealing and hoping that their partisan Supreme Court will rule in their favor. But unfortunately, he can't be trusted to just follow the law. He is so partisan. And he created this, and he still acts like he's the chief of staff to the governor. And so I'm very concerned that our chief law enforcement officer will not follow the law because this is his baby.
I've got a very quick follow-up question that relates to this, especially for you two senators. As you're standing here, there's a Senate confirmation hearing going on right now for a woman who the governor appointed to the Florida Atlantic University Board of Trustees named Tina Vidal-Duarte, who is the CEO of a company that's gotten massive contracts at the Everglades Detention Center. Senator LeBron Tracy Davis tried to ask several questions. Senator Harrell questioned their relevance.
At a news conference happening just moments ago at the Florida State Capitol in Tallahassee, outside the Senate chambers there, hearing from a number of Senate Democratic leaders, including State Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, a Democrat from Orlando, talking about some immigration legislation that the Democrats plan to file, and also reacting strongly to the renewal of the emergency declaration, the executive order declaring a state of emergency over immigration and illegal immigration here in the state of Florida. Right now, we're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We still have a lot to get to, so keep it here on Fox Local and YouTube, and we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. An exciting development today at the UCF as they had the official launch of a new 38-foot mobile health clinic. The whole point is to be able to take high-quality health care to the neighborhoods in our area that need it the most. This is something that provides a number of important services and preventative measures, things like blood pressure screenings, screenings for diabetes, cholesterol, hearing, along with chronic disease monitoring, some other assessments as well, things that may go overlooked otherwise, but are certainly very important to the overall health of people, especially in at-risk communities. And so earlier today, we were at the official launch of this mobile health unit at UCF, and you're going to hear from Dr. Barbara German, who's the Vice President for Health Affairs and Dean, talking about what they hope this mobile health clinic will provide to the community.
Well, thank you. Good morning and welcome. We're so excited to welcome you today as we unveil the new UCF Health Mobile Health Clinic. This will increase access to health care for our neighbors while helping educate the next generation of UCF healthcare professionals. We all know that when healthcare providers work together, the patient receives better care. And that is just what our mobile clinic delivers. This interdisciplinary clinic has been years in the making and is the first community care program of UCF's new Academic Health Sciences Center. Now, what is an Academic Health Sciences Center? Even some of us in healthcare don't really know what that is. When all of the health-related programs of a major university like UCF come together, so for us, UCF's colleges of health professions and sciences, the College of Medicine, the College of Nursing, and all of the clinical practices that exist at UCF, student health, faculty health, health professions health, all of those practices come together, and that is the Academic Health Sciences Center. Not only does it care broadly, but those involved are teaching and doing research. And that requires them to stay at the very cutting edge of medicine. You are standing right now in the middle of our Academic Health Science Center. And having one in our community transforms the quality of care by bringing together all of the disciplines of medicine. So hopefully you all now know what an Academic Health Sciences Center is, what it does, and why it's important. It's an honor for me today to recognize my Academic Health Science Center leaders and colleagues. From the College of Health Professions and Sciences, we have with us today Dean Matthew Theriault. And please stand so that everyone can see you, leading the College of Health Professions and Sciences. We also have our Dean of the College of Nursing, Dean Sharon Tucker. Sharon? And the leader of UCF Health, all of the practices, and the Associate Dean for Clinical Affairs at the College of Medicine, Dr. Michael Dyken. These leaders bring together all of the units of the Academic Health Sciences Center. Now, this mobile clinic will serve patients. These patients will be patients from Orange and Osceola County, and these are patients who have the greatest need. Our neighbors who face transportation, mobility, or financial barriers that restrict their access to the health care that most of us receive. And we're focused on the 14% of Orange County residents and almost 15% of people living in Osceola County who are not insured, regardless of their income level. And we all know that there are people who have incomes who can't afford health insurance. And we know that there are 27% of all Floridians who don't have a primary care doctor. That's a huge number, more than a quarter of us. Probably some of you standing right here. Since March, this mobile clinic has provided free screenings, blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, hearing loss, and we've helped nearly 500 patients manage their chronic conditions and teach them to live healthier lives. And we're just getting started. We wouldn't be where we are today without the support of our community. And not only community support, but very serious philanthropic support have fueled this effort. And I'd like to thank our generous donors. First of all, the Edith Bush Charitable Foundation. I see David Odahowski here, thank you. The community fund of our teaching hospital, the UCF HCA Lake Nona Teaching Hospital has contributed significantly through its community fund to fund this mobile clinic, and our partners at HCA Florida Healthcare, yes. The Jules B. Chapman and Annie Lou Chapman Private Foundation. I don't know if there's anyone here from that foundation. I see no, but we want to thank them as well. And of course, the thing that really makes this go is the support of the entire community. There are many donors who have given as individuals, and the hard work of our faculty, staff, and students in making this a reality. So many of you have contributed to this. Today we'll have two speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Caridad Hernandez.
That was from the event earlier today as UCF unveiling their new mobile health clinic, and you heard a little bit about what they hope it will be able to achieve and certainly make a difference in the community. Well, could the American flamingo soon become Florida's state bird? That is what one bill in Tallahassee would do. It's HB 11, and it would make the flamingo the state bird and the scrub jay the state songbird. Now, right now, you may know, the state bird of Florida is the mockingbird, rather, I should say. And so this bill would change that, and it was actually reported favorably out of committee earlier today. A committee of state lawmakers looking at focused on natural resources and as well. This was a subcommittee that heard discussion of the bill, and I want to play just a couple of minutes so you can see a little bit of the conversation and the debate over this bill and some of the things that lawmakers were looking at as they potentially look to make this change. Here is a little bit of that conversation from earlier today.
What we do here in the legislature and protecting what's special in our state. So I'm on board with both of them. Would also like to commend you on your excellent pink shirts and ties today.
Representative Andrade, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you very much, Chair. Members, I was conflicted about this bill, but I do intend on voting up on it today solely so I have the opportunity to file an amendment to name the pelican as the official Northwest fishing bird of the state of Florida. So I hope that the sponsors of this bill look out for that amendment either in the next committee or on the floor.
Representative Tant, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to echo my colleague here, Rep. Andrade, for all of us from North Florida. I will vote yes today, but I'd like to talk with you about recognizing the mockingbird as a songbird as well for our state. that's the request of my constituent. Thank you.
Representative Anderson, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your pink shirt too, Rep. Mooney. Like many of us here, I always thought the flamingo was our state bird, actually, before I saw the bill analysis. So I think you're just codifying what most Floridians think is accurate. I have one concern that I want to put on record, though. A quick Google search reveals that a group of flamingos is called the flamboyants. So I have a little bit of concern about that, but I'll be up on your bill.
Representative Mooney, you are recognized to close, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for the comments, first of all. Greatly appreciated. We'll talk about amendments later. But for sure, I'm very comfortable where we're at right now. It's been 3 years in the making. It's been a long haul. I understand the concerns of scrub jays and development. I live in the Florida Keys. We live with rats and snakes and butterflies and snails, and if you can name it, we have it, and somehow we still manage to build. So I know that there can be a symbiotic relationship between the construction people and saving habitat. It just has to be done correctly. As far as the flamingo goes, listen, it's an iconic bird in Florida. It always has been. You will never see a mockingbird in an airport. You will never see a mockingbird on the lottery ticket. You will never see a flamingo in the airport. You will see or a pelican in the airport, but you will see a flamingo in every airport you go to. So with that, I'll let my co-sponsor have last say.
Members, I know there's been some lighthearted comments, but on a serious note, it's a privilege for an old senior like myself to be able to work with Rep. Mooney. I like to visit his district in the summertime and go boating, and have actually seen in the Bayside flamingos there. And it's, I know to some it's, I know some are mocking this, but I think we're very serious about our habitat here, and we're very serious about our state bird. And I'm privileged to be on this team with Rep. Mooney, and hope you'll support the bill.
Thank you. Faith, please call the roll.
Representatives Anderson,
Yes.
Andrade, Benaroch, excused, Black,
Yes.
Boyles,
Yes.
Connerly,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Fabricio, excused, Gentry,
Yes.
Maggard,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Mooney,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Rayner, Skidmore,
Yes.
Tant,
Yes.
Tendrick,
Yes.
Chair Botana.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations on your bill, Representative Mooney.
So that bill moves forward. That was earlier today in Tallahassee. Let me give you a live look right now at UCF, where we are expecting to hear from Scott Frost, the head football coach of the Knights, coming up in about 10 minutes or so. It was a disappointing first season back at the helm for Scott Frost. The Knights finishing 5-7, missing out on a bowl. We are also seeing reports today that quarterback Taven Jackson is expected to enter the transfer portal. That and more, I'm sure, will come up at this news conference coming up in just a few minutes. We will bring that to you live right here on Fox 35 News Plus. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. A big weekend ahead for a local band. They're called the Pheromones. And not only are they playing this weekend at Mad Soul Fest at the Central Florida Fairground on Saturday, their debut EP is also releasing that same day. Now, earlier we had the chance to speak with Congressman Maxwell Frost, who is organizing that festival this weekend. And recently, Fox 35 had the chance to catch up with the members of the band, the Pheromones, about this opportunity, what it means to them, and a little bit about their music.
You can expect alternative rock that empowers women and embraces counterculture. You can also expect to see our EP that's about to come out that day. We're dropping that day. And you can also expect to see our relationships together, because we've all been friends for a while now, especially Madeline and I. We've known each other since we were 6. So you're gonna see some sisterhood.
We really wanted something that encompassed the female empowerment, kind of like getting that draw of an audience to us. So we had a list of names, and when somebody said the Pheromones, we were like, oh yeah, that's perfect. So basically I went to get coffee one day at work, and they were like, oh, Maxwell Frost is about to have a luncheon here. Are you guys gonna stay? And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, sure, I'll stay. So we stayed and hung out and listened to him answer a bunch of questions. And then after, I walked up to him and I was like, hey, we actually have some mutual friends in the music scene. And he was like, oh, really? Are you in a band? And I was like, yeah, I'm in the Pheromones. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I was about to reach out to your band actually about an idea that I had for a reoccurring festival. So yeah, he was like, I'll send you guys a message whenever we start to collect people for the lineup. And I remember I texted them, my band, and I said oh my gosh, this is so funny, but I just chatted with Maxwell Frost and he said he wants us on a lineup for a festival. So we'll see what happens. Would everybody be down? And everybody was like, yeah.
I was at my lunch break at work when Max just called me, and I almost didn't pick up because it was an unknown caller, so I thought it was a scam at first. And when I picked up, he was just like, hey, it's Max. And I was like, who's Max? And then he was like, oh, it's Representative Maxwell Frost. And I was like, oh, yes, because the week before I'd given him my contact info. And he was like, hey, yeah, do you have a second? I want to tell you about the lineup. So I literally went outside to hear it, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna tell you, he first told me about Kuko, and for me that was whoa, that's crazy, because I used to listen so much to Kuko in high school. And then he talked about Ali and AJ, which I was like, wait, that's such a throwback to, and so relevant to Orlando, being Disney and everything. And then he told us the headliner, which was Magdalena Bay, and for that one, I literally had to contain myself from screaming at work, because I've been super into this artist lately, especially their new music that's come out has really been on my radar, and I've been listening to it a lot. So when he told me that, it felt in a weird way whoa, I just started listening a lot to this band in a weird way, meant to be almost. We've always consistently been playing shows that align with our values and what we stand for. It started out right when we first started. Actually, our first show was as a part of an event for Sparks Magazine at UCF, which I was a part of. It's a magazine, a student-led magazine that amplifies Asian American voices, and I'm half Asian. So I asked the club, hey, can I perform here with my band? And that ended up being our first show, and I feel we've kind of carried that energy throughout. We've played shows such as Rock and Row, which was to support reproductive rights. It's always been a big part of our message to amplify the voices of women, especially being in a male-dominated space.
I guess we all really like the punk riot girl era a lot, Bikini Kill, Bratmobile. We all kind of have people that we draw to or draw inspiration from separately that I feel all comes together to make a unique sound. So yeah, we got some classic rock in there, some punk influences, some everything pretty much, some just rock in general. So
what was the inspiration for singing?
For singing? I've got a couple, but I mean, I do really love Pat Benatar. I love Hayley Williams from Paramore. Amy Winehouse is one of my faves too. So I don't know. I kind of have a bunch of people that I really look up to. So pretty much all female though. So yeah.
So everyone comes with like their own experience, and when we started out, we were just college sophomores playing together on a garage, just jamming for fun, and then we all grew a lot, I think, through being in the band and got to where we are now.
Give you a live look right now at Port Canaveral from our Launch Credit Union camera. Port Canaveral, officially the world's busiest cruise port. We learned this week that Port Canaveral beat out Port Miami for that distinction. More than 8.6 million passengers have come through the port this year. That's up 13% compared to last year. The port has also made a number of improvements, trying to make sure passengers can get their way through the terminals quickly and smoothly. And they're also in the process of expanding right now, developing a 7th terminal to help boost business and expanding 2 existing terminals. We had the chance yesterday to talk with Port Canaveral CEO Captain John Murray.
It's always good to have a new high on your books, and we knew this was going to be a very strong year for us all along. We've got an incredible group of people working at the port, and I think we deliver a top quality cruise guest experience. We're an easy drive-in, drive-out market, and I think that adds a lot to our success.
And kind of go into the customer experience. How does Port Canaveral kind of enhance the customer experience as much as possible?
Well, we do everything we can to try and make that as seamless as possible for cruise guests coming through our port, from ease of parking to transfers to the terminal to getting on the ship. And we've done a lot in the last few years to improve our service. We've taken our elevator contracts, vertical lift contracts, elevators, escalators. We have a new contractor and a new contract which is managing that. And I liken the cruise terminal experience to being very similar to a sports arena experience. Everybody arrives at one time, everything better be working. You get a 2 or 3 hour delay, then they all leave at the same time. Everything better be working. So historically, you have a traditional mindset of how an airport or office building runs, and it doesn't work in a cruise terminal. You have to be ready for the surge dynamics of a terminal with the people all arriving and departing. So we did some changes with our existing contracts to improve that service so that we don't have the downtime that we've had in the past. That's virtually been eliminated. We also went with a national cleaning organization to keep the terminals up. As we've been using our terminals more and more, multiple days a week, it's become harder and harder to keep them maintained and clean, so we now have night schedules for all of our cleaning crews. They come in after ship sails and they do everything on a second shift. With industrial equipment, like the little robots that run around and clean your living room, they make those in industrial size as well. And we have those in our terminals now. And last big thing we've done is we've taken all of our gangways, our moving passenger bridges that get you from the ship to the terminal. And that's really the single point of failure in our operations. And we've reorganized a team of experts now that do nothing but handle those bridges so that they're maintained, operated, and long-term maintenance all by the same group of people. And that ensures that they're always working when we have ships alongside.
So all those changes that you just discussed that you've made, would you say that those changes are one of the many primary reasons that this surge has happened the past year?
I think it helps us deliver a quality experience at Port Canaveral. And there's a expression in the industry that's measured from car to bar. And that is when you get out of your car, how soon can you get to the bar on the ship? And it's not a real KPI or a real metric, but it's a frequent phrase in the cruise industry. And people want to not hang around in the terminals or in the parking lots. They want to get out of the car, get on the ship, and get the vacation started.
I guess one last question. What would you like to see? Are there any changes, coming up in the next year that you would like to make or that you would like to see happen?
Actually, we're making some significant changes right now on our cruise terminal 5. We're enlarging it from 90,000 square feet to about 170,000 square feet, so almost doubling the size of the terminal. And we're doing that at an active terminal, which is something we've never done before. So ships are coming and going, passengers are coming and going while we're driving pile and building a whole new facility add-on to the existing facility. So it's a major project for us, and we will have that operational by next winter season, starting in October. We just appreciate all the cruise guest support that we've had this past year, and hope we can continue to deliver a quality product to everybody in the next year coming up.
Exciting times ahead, it sounds like. Give you a live look right now at UCF. We are still standing by for that news conference with Scott Frost. We're going to take a quick break right now, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back in. Scott Frost just walked up to the podium here. Let's go ahead and listen in.
This whole process has changed a lot since last time I was here. Recruiting in high school kids is a really important way to build the foundation of your team and get guys in the program that can help now or be developed into guys that you hope you can keep for a long time. But it's also not the only way to build and improve a team anymore. So probably has a little less attention and glamour than it used to, but it's still a very important day.
Scott, you brought in a couple of quarterbacks. What's kind of your plan, I guess, for the future with them, and how does that change developing a quarterback now? Because obviously guys want to play immediately, and with the portal and everything like that, it kind of moves up the timeline. What's your kind of thought process about developing maybe some of these young arms?
Yeah, I think quarterback is no different than other positions is. In a perfect world, we're developing them all in-house and getting guys understanding our system and built in our program and make them better. We didn't have the opportunity to do that much last year because I got here after signing day. So this is really our first step in kind of trying to recruit some building blocks at several positions. Quarterback certainly one. If you we're experiencing this every day and seeing the drama and the price tags that go along with transfer quarterbacks. It certainly benefit us to have a homegrown one, and love the two guys that we got and feel like we're going to pour into them and try to build somebody that we can keep for a while.
Coach, obviously the transfer portal opens in January, but there were recent reports about quarterback Taven Jackson planning to enter the transfer portal. What are the thoughts on that situation, and what's your situation on that side?
Well, I can't, and it doesn't make any sense to comment on any individual. This is college football now. It's crazy time. We have to decide what's best for our team and who needs to stay and who needs to go, and players need to decide what's best for them and who wants to stay and who isn't going to stay. And there's going to be a lot of moving around and jockeying at every college town in America. So when the dust settles from all of it, I can comment on individuals more, but we're right in the middle of that now.
I kind of want to follow up. What are your goals, especially entering the portal with your goals with retention, and what's your message to the team that they want to build on what they accomplished this year?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of the guys, said this after the last game, a lot of guys that are pieces that we want to build on and build around. It's going to be a lot easier for us this year to know those guys, know which ones belong, which ones fit us, which ones are doing things the right way, and which ones we're going to do everything we can to keep here. That's going to mean that we can fill in holes rather than build an entire team, and that's definitely a better position to be approaching this from. So we have a lot of goals and just trying to build the best team we can.
Of your 13 signees, 5 from Florida, none from Greater Orlando, what was your strategy in recruiting the state of Florida and Central Florida in particular?
Well, you can have a strategy. It really comes down to each individual player. If we're going to invest some of our resources from a money standpoint in high school kids, then we expect those kids to come in and play. and there's a few of those that I think have a chance to come in and help the team right away. Some others that we're really excited about, not just where they are only, but where they can grow and how far we think how much they can improve and how far they can go. So it's a combination of all those things. I think this is probably fairly emblematic of what will be going forward, and I think about half our kids are from Florida, and kind of surprised it's not a little more than that, but we're going to look under every rock and try to find the guys that fit us, and I feel really good about the guys we did get.
Did you have a specific budget for high school recruits, and how did you do to that cap or that allotment?
No, there's no set number on anything. We have a number for the team, and the bigger that number gets, maybe the more you spend on freshmen. But again, I want to make sure we have a team that has the best chance possible to compete next year. And I think if you're spending a lot of money on guys that you don't think are going to play immediately, then that investment's not helping you win football games immediately. And we certainly have a lot of other needs on the team right now and things to fix. And I think we found a good balance.
Coach, with the addition of Kaj and Arthur, you have a deep but young running back room when it comes to who's left with eligibility next year, and Miles and Jaden graduating. I know maybe the portal could supplement that, but as far as the running backs you do have under your roof right now, what stands out about that, and what do you think what will get them to earn playing time in 2026?
Well, they'll have to compete and earn playing time at running back like everywhere else. I was really excited about a couple guys in our program that got hurt during the year. We didn't get to see Swint do much this year because of a camp injury. Stacey Gage got hurt partway through the season. Those guys are both young. Now we're adding two freshmen. I love the traits of the guys we have. We don't have a lot of experience there. So that's something we might need to look at and address. But, we're trying to collect the best people and the best talent that we can and feel good about the guys we have.
What stands out to you about Kaj and Arthur?
Kaj has an elite trait, and that's his speed. When I was here the first time, I think my first commitment was from Adrian Killens, and that's a lot to put on a kid to compare him to someone like that. But I think the speed is similar, and he certainly opened up games for us. I think Kaj has some of the same traits, so I'm really excited to get him. I think there's a lot of things we can do with him. Arthur is, we think flew under the radar a little bit, and just as an all-around back with a tremendous amount of potential and upside, really excited about him too. So those guys are going to be good additions, and Jimmy Beal will do a great job with them.
When did your staff identify Rocco Marriott in this recruiting process, and what made him the guy that you really wanted to target as the month of October and November rolled around and getting to this point?
Yeah, I'm picky about quarterbacks. KZ is picky about quarterbacks. And that's just a game of musical chairs and a dance that you have to play right up to the end. We actually spoke with Rocco some back earlier in the year. We had a commitment at the time. He was committed somewhere else at the time, and we didn't want to get really serious about it unless the opportunity here was going to be available, and felt like he was in a position that it was viable. So that all kind of happened late, but he's had a great senior season and has a lot of the traits that we're looking for, and thrilled to have him here.
Can you speak more about the traits that Rocco has? What kind of jumps out at you that makes him, you think, would be a good fit for your offense?
He's big, he's fast, he can really throw it. He's a competitor. He's played multiple sports. I think he's hungry. I think he has a lot of potential.
And Dante Carr, the other quarterback you signed, I know he's been a winner up in Pennsylvania. Just kind of talk about signing him and what you liked about him.
Yeah, Dante caught my eye early on this spring too, and Dante, reminds me a little of myself when I was that age. To be honest with you, he's just a great all-around athlete. He's a great kid. We have some work to do with him on his stroke, and I think he knows that. but he's a fantastic athlete and fantastic kid. Was getting recruited by a lot of places to play quarterback and some places to play something else. I think when you're an athletic quarterback, every time a throw doesn't look perfect, they come to you and ask you, why aren't you playing some other position? If you're not a good enough athlete to play a different position, then they never say that to you if you make a bad throw. But Dante's a guy that I'm really excited to work with, work on his mechanics a little bit. And I think if we get that ironed out, he's got the athletic ability and just the approach to the game that can make him really good.
Sean, excuse me, Sean. Scott, I was going to say that you lost Sean Clark, obviously, this year. What is your approach to the offensive line coaching job? Is it something you plan to fill soon? Do you have any ideas how you're going to fill that? And also, when you look at the rest of the staff, do you expect any changes going on the staff?
You know, talk about Sean first. That was tough on me. It was tough on us. You know, when you're in the position that we're in and something like that happens, you almost have to just ignore it and do your job. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of us had time to process it. I just spoke to Janelle 2 nights ago. She's still processing it. I can't tell you how good a guy he was. And of all the people I've ever coached with, he's one of my favorite guys that I've ever been around. I just loved seeing him every day. He was such a positive influence on everybody in our building. So, you know, just crushed for the family, and I miss him personally. You know, we got through the year. I think Coach Bear did a great job of kind of keeping it on the rails and doing what he could do to make sure that position kept performing. Danny Hope came in, who was a friend of Sean's, that wanted to help because of how much he cared about Sean. So it wasn't certainly ideal, but the problems of a football team are insignificant compared to the impact that can have on a family and human beings. We've been keeping our eye open at that position for a while now, and I've spent a lot of this week trying to narrow down a list and get closer, and I'd like to get something done there sooner rather than later.
Do you expect any other changes on the coaching staff?
I don't. You never know. You can be surprised by some things, but you know, for a first-year program that brought 70 new in, I thought there was a lot of good things that happened, and I think everybody's committed to doing the little things better to try to get us to the next step.
Coach, obviously Cam Fancher was one of the starting quarterbacks. Going into the season, he competed the entire year, and then he got injured. What's his current status in terms of receiving possibly a medical red shirt?
Yeah, we're trying to help Cam get another year back, and I actually met with Cam today and talking to him about our future and his future, and I think we're both going to take a little time and see what the picture looks like. I would love to have Cam back in the program. Just the toughness that he plays with and the commitment to football and who he is as a person make him somebody that you want to have around. But I think there's a lot of things that need to clear up so he feels good about the situation here and we can move forward.
You talked about how recruiting has changed since you were last here, having a general manager, a director of player personnel. What was the process like in your involvement in that? How did you approach recruiting as a team?
That's a big question. You know, when you come in December and really don't get your feet on the ground until January, you're actually behind for recruiting kids that signed today. Because that's a process that takes more than a year. You know, we're in a great place to recruit, so it was easier for us to find kids and go out and make sure we were getting the right kind of kids that fit us. We'll be in a better position for that even next year than we were this year. But I think the staff did a great job of identifying guys that fit us and had some of the traits that we were looking for. And I think it'll get easier as we go forward, but I think we did a great job this year.
What was the sales pitch for UCF, maybe how that's changed from when you were first here?
I think UCF sells itself, particularly being a bigger league now. Guys know that they can, Florida kids in particular, can stay close to home and play big-time football near their family. This university kind of speaks for itself, and the city of Orlando speaks for itself. And I know a lot of kids that we came across would really like to be here, and we owe the able to narrow it down to the ones that we really wanted and try to build a foundation with these guys.
Coach, what stood out to you about Al Hassan there? His story came out of Ghana, only picked up football very recently. What really stood out to you to recruit him, and what does he bring to this program for you?
Yeah, we got several coaches from up in the Northeast, and they take pride in that, and they like to keep tabs on everything going on up there. Al kind of came on our radar earlier in the year, and we got really excited about him. It was a battle to get him here, but when he came down, he really loved the place and loved the coaches. He got hurt this year, and we stuck with him. I think that meant a lot to him, but we believe in him, and he's going to have some rehabbing to do when he gets here, but I'm excited about him, his upside, and what he can bring to UCF.
Scott, I know you talked bigger picture about personnel within a program, coaching-wise, but on an NIL stage, from your first recruiting class, your first time here, to now, how much has just the landscape of college football changed?
It's broken. College football's broken. I don't know if you'll get that honest answer from everyone, but everyone would agree if they were honest. You just got to try to play the game as best you can. And, Terry and people here have done an unbelievable job getting us on a level playing field with everybody else from a rev share standpoint. That gives us a great chance. We need to keep pushing forward and trying to do even more. But it's night and day different from just recruiting high school kids. It's just a different game now, and I think we'll be better suited to approach it this year for a lot of reasons. One, we actually know our team. I laugh about it now, but I did my press conference last year and had a couple players and their agents waiting outside my office 5 minutes after I did my press conference to start telling me how much money I needed to pay them, and I didn't even know who the kids were. We're going to know our team now. We're going to know our strengths and weaknesses. I think we're at a better financial position to approach this, and we're going to be able to hopefully just build around some people rather than try to build the whole thing from scratch. So you get out of the stress and heavy work of season and go straight into this, and this is a lot of work too. Trent Mossbrocker and Love and Beer and all the guys in recruiting, Dan Pirtle, this is their season, and they've been doing a lot of work to prepare themselves for this, and now we got to do the best job we can to try to fill out a team.
Scott, to piggyback off this, from your point of view, how does that impact the kids, the high school kids coming in? I mean, because maybe fans think about the financial windfall that they could benefit from, but in terms of development as people, as athletes, do you see it harming the kids at all? Do you see a different side?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are probably impacted by the way college football is now. The days of going to a school and being loyal to the school and being able to go back to homecomings and support a school that you were at for 4 or 5 years and you got a degree from. Some kids will never have that because they've been at 3 or 4 schools. One of the things that I think a lot of coaches love about coaching is the mentoring side of it. And I've talked a lot about taking an 18-year-old young man that doesn't have life figured out and watching him leave as a 22-year-old that you've poured into a little bit. And that's very fulfilling as a coach. That's getting harder and harder to do. The time frame that you have to impact some guys can be a lot shorter now. You got to build a team and a team culture year by year now. The good thing for us is we're going to have a lot of guys that understand what we want and our standards. And when you have culture keepers in the locker room that hold everybody else to that standard, that's a big piece. And we're going to have a lot more of that this year than last year.
You kind of alluded to it.
Scott Frost talking about the landscape of college sports. Eye-opening to hear him say the way it is now, college football is broken. Talking about some of their commits for next year, some of what they are hoping to improve upon for next year. No comment on the reports that Taven Jackson expects to enter the transfer portal. We're going to take a quick break right now here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Want to get you back as we continue listening to Scott Frost, head football coach at the University of Central Florida, speaking about the upcoming season and building the roster on this day where we're seeing a lot of folks sign their letters of intent. So let's go ahead and listen in.
A good job with that, adding some pieces that I think are going to be really good down the road in the late signing period. So we're always looking for good players, whatever method we need to use to get them here, and we'll have our eye open.
Considering the portal and considering the turnover of the coaching cycle this past year, are you able to focus on anything just beyond how guys help you in 2026, or do you see some of these players and think that by the time 27, 28 rolls around, this is the plan I have in place for them?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be thinking about now and down the road, and that's where, this is really going to be our first signing class. Like I said, the more guys that you can build in-house and only have to fill in around, I think that makes you a better football team and have more continuity. So, you got to try to do the best you can to compete now while having an eye on the big picture. And you only have two eyes, so you got to keep your pupils moving a lot.
Coach, what's kind of your end of the season evaluation and assessment on some of the assistant coaches that came and helped out this year, especially someone like Kenny Martin, who was on the team previously to you arriving?
Yeah, I said this after I got here. I think you can. It's the easy way out as a coach just to hire people you know and your friends. And this time when I came here, I wanted to just go out and try to find the best that I could for the spots with the resources we had to spend on them. So we have, 2 or 3 coaches that I've worked with a lot in the past that I believed in and knew about. And really the rest of the staff is guys that we either found when we were looking to hire people or someone that was here before. I didn't know Coach D'Onofrio real well before he came. He's done a great job. Coach Grinch I'd coached against. He did a really good job this year. Kmart was already here. He did a really good job this year. Jimmy Beal at running backs, I think is a really good coach, and really thankful for having him here. And I don't mean to leave anyone out. Coach Alomar, really detailed, did a great job this year. So, it's more of a collection of people this year. And Kmart was here before and already knew the team, and that was a big help to us last year. And just like a team, the coaching staff has to continue to come together and be even closer and a tighter unit. And we'll certainly have time in the off season to do that. But I think continuity is important too, and excited to keep working with those guys and get to know them better.
How do you think KZ handled year one as quarterbacks coach?
Yeah, I left out KZ, didn't I? KZ is going to be a really good coach. He is now. He and I see things largely the same way. He's very detailed. He's very knowledgeable. Players like him and want to play for him. So, like I've said a lot, I'm really glad to give KZ an opportunity to have his first full-time job, and he's done a great job, and he'll continue to do so.
Scott, you talked about this, about retention, and have you had discussions from players about maybe a guy's already thinking about entering the transfer portal, and that give you kind of a little bit of heads up, a leg up as you start to think about the next 3 weeks before the portal window opens?
Yeah, I mean, the more conversations you can have and the more honesty you can have, I think helps. There will always be surprises both ways.
Scott Frost continuing to speak right now about his upcoming recruiting class, a number of other things as well. This is a news conference today. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We will be back at the top of the hour, welcome in our TV audience for Florida Live, and talk about a lot of topics coming up. So keep it here on Fox Local.
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. We've been live streaming for the last 3 hours on Fox Local. We've covered a lot of ground and still have more to cover over the next hour. If you're just now joining us here on Fox 35, we appreciate it. One of the stories we've been tracking throughout the day is a deadly shooting in Seminole County, some sort of dispute between two drivers that happened in the early morning hours. Now we are learning more and have learned that the shooter has been released. I want to bring in Fox 35's Hannah McKenzie, who has been following up on this story today. And Hannah, we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live. A big update this afternoon from the Seminole County Sheriff's Office about this investigation.
Hey, Garrett. Yeah, good afternoon to you and your audience. So that huge investigation, or that huge new piece of information that we have just learned, is the shooter was in custody, was being questioned by Seminole County Sheriff's Office deputies, but has since been released. And that is under Florida's stand your ground law. So we have learned the state attorney's office will not be pressing charges as of now. That doesn't mean they can't come down the line, though. It is just less likely that they will. Detectives are still going door to door in this neighborhood, looking for people with security cameras, doorbell cameras, that sort of thing. They're asking people to review their footage, see if they may have caught anything on camera that could help them in this investigation. But right now, according to the shooter and what deputies have told us, the decedent in this case was the one who pulled his gun first. He was the aggressor in this. So this all happened in a Longwood neighborhood, the Mandarin Estates neighborhood, and the actual incident where I am right now is Rutledge Road. This was the road rage incident. It started at the beginning of the neighborhood and kind of came further into the neighborhood. Both drivers were armed. According to the deputies, they say the decedent was the first one to pull out the gun. They actually found that gun in the middle of the street. And then the other gunman, the other driver, the one who did do the shooting, took out his gun, fired multiple rounds, hitting that driver, which caused him to then lose control of the car. And this is what I want to show you guys, actually. Let me see if I can flip my camera around. Okay, so I'm going to get out of the car right now and show you guys. So this all caused... Sorry, bear with me while I try to figure out how to flip the camera around. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is the home right here where this truck came barreling through the front yard, narrowly missing hitting the house. And when I say narrowly, I mean by 3 feet maximum. So the truck came through here all the way from the other side, came through here. It did take out, they had like a little marker depicting their address. It was concrete, took that out, continued across the street here. You can kind of see over there in the distance, there's a metal fence. It has been dented. That's because the driver took that fence out. He then took a wooden fence out on the other side and came to a resting spot kind of between both of the backyards. And that is where he was pronounced dead. Now, this again happening very early in the morning, 1 a.m. Wednesday. So some of the residents I've spoken with slept through it. Some of the residents I spoke with said that they thought they heard some sort of loud noise, but they weren't sure exactly what it was. And it wasn't until later that they found out that it was actually the gunshots that they'd heard of that other driver firing before this one lost control and drove through multiple properties here. So a very complicated situation and a chaotic situation for a lot of these people in this quiet Longwood neighborhood, Garrett. They say nothing usually happens here, but this is quite a way to wake up in the morning.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Fox 35's Hannah McKenzie, we appreciate you walking us through that and continuing to track this investigation with us here on Florida Live this afternoon.
Thanks, Garrett.
Also want to give you a live look right now inside an Orange County courtroom where a hearing is continuing for Tommy Ziegler, 80 years old, the longest serving death row inmate here in the state of Florida. This is the third day now of an evidentiary hearing that is his last chance at freedom, retesting some new DNA evidence that his defense attorneys say should exonerate him and show that he should not be convicted, overturn his conviction. But the prosecution says it doesn't change anything. Now, they have just restarted just in the last little bit after a lunch break. And during that lunch break, I had the chance to speak with Fox 35's Matt Trezza about what's been happening so far in court today.
Been hearing his expert testimony throughout the morning from a Richard Eichenblum. He is a blood spatter expert, and he's been testifying as to some of the particulars of the blood spatter that was found at the scene on the victims, and the defense trying to build their narrative around the blood evidence that was found at the scene on the different victims in this case. It has been highly technical, calling up different articles of clothing, the positions of bodies on the floor, the furniture, the area, talking even about a pillow that had blood spatter on it, all trying to kind of like put together through the story of where the blood was at the scene, to put it together in their narrative of how the events of that night, the murders of these 4 people went about happening.
And so these are witnesses now being called by the defense?
Yes, this is a defense witness, and it's not these. At this point, it has only been one gentleman throughout the morning and probably into the afternoon as well.
All right, you talk about how technical this is. Just give us an idea of some of the things that they are kind of bringing up in their testimony, and I know you had said before, kind of the battle of experts here.
Exactly. It is well underway, and so we're talking both about the physical and the chemical properties of the blood. So the physical properties of it being its shape, its direction, its for example, this morning, before they even went into the description of where the blood was found on the victims and around the scene, they went into the description of what different types of blood could be found and the definitions of them. What does blood spatter look like? What does back spatter look like? Where does the blood go when somebody is shot in the head from close range, from a far distance away? Getting all the different definitions down. Where is blood? How does blood operate when it is dropped from above, whereas if it's dripped from a person while that person is moving? How does it pool on the floor? All the different things like that before they even went into laying the foundations for their discussion, before they went even into the circumstances of where the blood was found at the scene. And then the chemical and genetic components of it. Where was the DNA? Obviously blood carries DNA. What kind of sample was it? Was it touch DNA? Was it, for example, could be a hand placed on a victim's clothes that left DNA there? Or was it from a blood sample? Where did it come from? How long had it been there? How long could it have been significantly degraded over the course of time? So all these different questions, again, very highly technical, but all together trying to put the puzzle pieces together that in totality, should, in theory, lay out the defense's theory of what happened that night.
Some grisly details, no doubt, to hear that talk. But obviously, when you're talking about
photographs as well, yes.
Yeah, but obviously that the key kind of evidence that is at the center of this hearing and what is essentially his last chance to get off of death row.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I mean, it's all, like I said, it's kind of a puzzle. So each piece of evidence, each thing that an expert talks about, even though it may not necessarily seem in and of itself a significant thing, altogether it allows the defense to paint their picture of what happened that night and say, well, the blood was here, the blood wasn't there. It was this person's blood, not that person's blood. It was this DNA, not that DNA. And again, in totality, should, in the hopes of the defense, put together their theory of the crime.
I know this is something that Tommy Ziegler and his supporters, whoever else may be there, have been through time and time again. He is the longest-serving death row inmate. We know there's been a long legal road to even get to this point. But I'm curious if they have any sort of a reaction or what they're doing as all of this is kind of playing out in court.
Not much at this point. I mean, certainly during the proceedings, I mean, there's total silence. Everybody is just listening. However, During the breaks, they step outside, they commiserate with each other. And then on the other side, there are other relatives from other parts of the family. There was some of them sitting in front of me, in fact, in the courtroom, as they were hearing some of this testimony, particularly about Perry and Virginia Edwards, Ziegler's parents-in-law. They were crying. They were hugging each other. They were wiping their eyes, tears from their eyes. So there are not outward shows of emotion, but certainly a lot of underlying emotions being felt among the members of the audience.
What can we expect this afternoon, Matt? More of what we heard this morning?
Yes. So the break happened in the middle of the testimony, and we are going to go right back to Mr. Eichenblum's testimony about DNA and blood spatter and all those highly technical details as soon as lunch wraps up.
And that is what is happening right now. I've got a live look. I'm not going to show you right now because one of the photos that they have up on the screen right now, another example of some of the somewhat graphic photos that we have seen at times. But we are continuing to monitor that hearing on this third day now of the Tommy Ziegler evidentiary hearing. Right now, we're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, but we still have a lot to get to, so keep it right here on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. Welcome back into Florida Live. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. Time now for our Tampa Connection, where we take a look at some of the big stories in the Bay Area. And for that, we go to Fox 13 Tampa Bay senior content producer Nancy Gay, who joins us live now. And Nancy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Well, Governor Ron DeSantis was in Tampa today announcing more than $112 million in grants to improve the water quality and supply along the Gulf Coast as well as in Central Florida. He said of those grants, $50 million will be in 14 different water supply grants, including the St. Johns River, the Swanee River, the Southwest Florida Water Management Districts, Polk Regional Water Cooperative, the Toho Water Authority, as well as the cities of Cape Coral and Live Oak. Now, once fully operational, DeSantis says that these projects are expected to produce almost 94 million gallons of water per day. He said $50 million will go to 23 projects aimed at protecting Florida's natural freshwater springs. And according to DeSantis, these projects will reduce nitrogen by 100,000 pounds per year in the springs. And then he said another $12 million will go to the state's universities and counties to drive innovative technology to fight harmful algae blooms. Florida Department of Environmental Protection Secretary Alexis Lambert also spoke during Wednesday's press conference. She said that with Florida's growth comes a responsibility to manage the state's water resources intentionally. Now, DeSantis said that since he's been governor, he has given more than $300 million to fund about 1,200 projects across the state to reduce harmful nutrients in Florida's waterways. Garrett?
All right, and second story in our Tampa connection today, an update on a story you've been following since the firing of a top law enforcement official in Tampa.
Yes, that's right. The husband of Tampa's former top cop, Mary O'Connor, has been fired from his job as the city code enforcement director. Now, this all comes after an FDLE investigation that actually started with a winning lottery ticket. Now, earlier this year, there was an investigation into whether Aubrey Pierce had been accepting bribes while working at a City of Tampa solid waste facility. And during that investigation, authorities discovered unrelated text messages between Price and Keith O'Connor. He is the husband of former Tampa Police Chief Mary O'Connor. Now, numerous sources said that those texts showed Pierce urging O'Connor to cash in a $25,000 lotto ticket that Pierce had won. Now, sources said he wanted O'Connor to cash in that lottery ticket because Pierce owed tens of thousands of dollars in child support and wanted to hide the winnings from the court system. Now, O'Connor's attorney said that he and Pierce did have a personal relationship as well as a professional relationship. Now, Pierce does have a checkered past that includes numerous charges like grand theft, battery on a pregnant woman, and fleeing from law enforcement. And in 2013, those grand theft charges landed him in a decade-long prison sentence. But in February of 2014, documents show that the court set aside that sentence because the original sentencing guidelines weren't followed by the court. And 10 months later, Pierce complained in a handwritten letter to a judge that he hadn't been let out yet. And at the end, he reassured the judge, quote, "If I am released soon, I have a good job waiting for me with the City of Tampa, thanks to the help of Major Keith O'Connor of the Tampa Police Department," end quote. Now, this week, FDLE wrote in a report that O'Connor's friend told two people that he had someone else cash a scratch-off ticket to avoid paying past due child support. They said there was a strong presumption that O'Connor knowingly participated in a scheme to ensure that the mother did not receive child support. Investigators said the only viable option for prosecution was theft, but they were not able to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. So therefore, the case was closed. However, the City of Tampa said that O'Connor's supervisors determined his poor judgment merited dismissal from his position as code enforcement director. Now, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor released this statement after O'Connor was fired. She said, "Our organization is built on professionalism, accountability, and integrity. The community we serve expects and deserves the highest standards from all city employees, especially those in leadership positions." Now, Keith O'Connor, as I mentioned, is the husband of former Tampa Police Chief Mary O'Connor. Now, she ultimately resigned from her position after an incident involving a Pinellas County deputy that occurred while she was off duty. Now, in that incident, Keith O'Connor was behind the wheel of a golf cart when his wife asked the Pinellas County deputy to let them go for a potential traffic violation. Garrett?
All right, and finally in our Tampa connection here, Nancy, a controversial proposal at St. Pete Beach.
Yes, a lot of residents are not happy about this proposal at all. The mayor of St. Pete Beach is proposing to add a $1 toll at 3 entry points onto the island. Now, the toll would apply to drivers who do not live or work on the island, only to visitors. Now, the mayor pointed to traffic data showing about 60,000 cars entering the city a day at $1 apiece. That could generate an estimated $11 million a year. Now, opponents argue that the plan is unfair and may violate state law and could actually harm workers as well as tourism. Signs reading "tolls equal residents' tax" and "no tolls equal no tax" are appearing across the island, and a related petition has already gathered more than 1,600 signatures. Opponents argue that the plan misses the mark for several reasons. They say under Florida law, toll revenue can only be used for road projects, not wastewater or stormwater repairs, key needs that were listed by the city. They're saying that they need this extra money to make these repairs. Now, the opponents also say that the law requires tolls to be applied equally, which means residents and workers may not be exempt. Business owners worry that the impact would extend beyond the city's budget. One restaurant owner we spoke with said that most of his employees live off of the island, and a daily toll would add up very quickly, especially for hourly workers. Now, others fear tourism and off-island traffic, which many businesses rely on, will also decline. But on the flip side, supporters said that the toll revenue could help fund $200 million in infrastructure needs over the next 5 years. The city manager is preparing a formal presentation on the proposal that is expected to go before commissioners early next year. So far, no vote has been scheduled. Garrett?
Going to be interesting to see what happens. We will keep our eyes on that. Fox 13 senior content producer Nancy Gay, we appreciate you joining us for our Tampa Connection.
Thank you.
Time now for our Florida Live forecast. Going to bring in Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, who joins me now. And Laurel, a nice day, a little bit cooler, but nothing like you saw in the Northeast, I think.
Sunny and 70. I like it. I'll take that rather than cloudy, gloomy, and 40s from what I had over Thanksgiving. So
yeah. This is a big improvement then.
Oh, huge improvement. I actually got to do yard work yesterday, which was wonderful.
Nice.
It was great.
Yeah. Welcome back to Florida.
Yeah. Welcome back to Florida. No warm welcome. I will take it for sure.
And looking beautiful out there this afternoon.
Looking gorgeous. But we might get a little bit of a taste of that northern weather as we take a look through the overnight tonight. Taking a look out there right now, though, it is just stunning out there. Seeing those temperatures lingering right around the low 70s for highs today. Beautiful sunshine. Can't think of anything better than that as we kick off the month of December. But overnight lows tonight, we have been seeing a high pressure system kind of lingering just off to our north. And that's pulling in a little bit of that cooler air, especially as we head through the overnight tonight. Higher up on the I-75 corridor, Gainesville, Ocala area, you're going to be seeing the 40s through the overnight tonight. Closer to Orlando, lingering throughout the low 50s, and down towards Tampa, also going to be lingering throughout the 50s as well. We're slowly going to start to warm up those highs. So today it was a little bit on the cooler side. Tomorrow we're going to turn up the heat just a couple of degrees, and then we're going to continue to fall back into the low 80s as we take a look at your Friday and just continuing the warm up from there. But it's kind of the warm up before the cool down. We're kind of in that time of year where we're kind of in that temperature roller coaster, and we're just going to continue that ride, because as soon as we head into the back half of the weekend, you can see that dip. Sunday going to fall back into the upper 70s, and then we're going to be in the 60s, taking a look ahead into next week. So here's kind of the big weather overall, what we're going to be seeing pattern wise. We see that high pressure system over areas across Georgia, Alabama. This is what's going to be bringing in that northern breeze that's cooling our temperatures down through the overnight tonight. Seeing a couple of clouds out there for your Thursday, but slowly starting to see that warm up. And as we do see that warm up approaching, we're going to see some scattered showers, especially higher up in the I-75 corridor towards Jacksonville as we head through probably about Saturday morning is when we could be seeing a couple of those showers. But for Tampa, Orlando, partly cloudy skies, warm on the breezy side for your Saturday. Sunday going to be a little bit different. That's when we're going to be seeing more of that rain really start to push in. And boy, do we desperately need this rain there, Garrett. Seeing those temperatures and also those conditions start to decrease a little bit, taking a look especially on Sunday. Sunday is when we're going to be expecting our most widespread chance of rain. Luckily, most of it's going to be rain, but there could be a couple of thunderstorms kind of thrown in there as well. Down towards Tampa, Orlando, we could be seeing close to an inch, but closer towards the Panhandle, they might be seeing upwards of 2 and 3 inches, kind of just depending on where we see those heavier pockets. That's going to be coming up on Sunday is when we could be seeing that rain. But again, we desperately need that rain. Starting to see those drought conditions really set in across Florida. Still starting to see more of those conditions, especially where we saw that big flooding in October. starting to see those drought conditions finally start to set in there. So we're really in that very dry part of our season, and that's what's going to continue as we head through the next couple of weeks. And really just this rain, much needed, definitely not enough to put us a full setback, but definitely something that'll help.
It's that time of year where we kind of take every drop we can get.
Yes.
Because, even if it's storing it up for a little bit, because, we know we can go stretches without anything.
Yeah, which blessing and a curse, blessing and a curse, but we are going to be seeing a good amount of that much needed rain on Sunday, which may put a little bit of a damper into your weekend plans. But good news is that Saturday, not going to be a washout, couple of scattered showers here and there, and lots of Christmas events happening on Friday. So
yeah,
good way to kick off the weekend.
An exciting time of year, and also good that you went ahead and got that yard work out of the way, so now you don't have to worry about it this weekend.
Exactly.
There you go, smart. Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, we appreciate you joining us with our Florida Live forecast.
Thanks, Garrett.
As we go to break here on Florida Live, let me give you a live look right now at Port Canaveral. Looking beautiful there. We learned yesterday it's the busiest cruise port in the world, beat out Port Miami for that distinction. Keep it right here. We've got more Florida Live after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. This is CFO Blazin Golia speaking with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. You see the placard there saying fighting illegal immigration. That has been a big topic today regarding the state legislature, and the CFO today unveiling some legislation that he says would help in the fight against illegal immigration. This is going on live right now. Let's go ahead and listen in as the CFO speaks. Live from the St. John County Sheriff's Office. And here is CFO Blazin Golia.
Senator Martin, you're up. Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you not just for being here today, guys, but the men and women in green that I see throughout the room. Thank you for your sacrifice every single day. Thank you for the sacrifices of your families. It's a huge deal to do what you do every single day. And I just want to let you know, from the Florida Senate and myself, we support you and will continue to fight for you. I've been privileged over the last 4 years to be the chair of the Criminal Justice Committee in the Florida Senate. Before that, I was a prosecutor for 7 years down in Southwest Florida. Actually prosecuted in 3 different counties in the 20th Circuit, 2 of them very rural counties, so you can imagine some of the issues that I was dealing with from 2007 until 2014. Since then, I got into private practice, and my job basically has been 90% car crashes. And as you can imagine, between being a prosecutor, prosecuting DUIs, vehicular manslaughters, amongst many other types of crimes, and then also dealing with the civil side of the car crash issue, I've seen lives torn apart my entire legal career. My wife is still a prosecutor, and she still fills me in every single day about the horrific situations that are happening on our roads across the state. Many are accidents, and we wish for the best for those who need the services that come with the life-altering injuries. But what we've seen highlighted since special session last year throughout the state of Florida, there are way too many deadly and life-altering crashes that are caused by individuals who should have never been on the road. Every single day, I'm either getting a phone call from somebody in my office, or I'm reading the news, or I'm scrolling through social media and see a horrific story. And you all who put on the uniform, put on the badge every single day, you're often there seeing the things that no human being should ever see. And you're seeing many of those because of our failed immigration policies on the federal level. And for so long, our local law enforcement didn't have the support from the federal government that we do now to clean up our streets and make sure that our streets are safer. We spend billions of dollars every single year from our local government, Tallahassee, probably hundreds of billions when you add in the federal government, to make our roads safer. The amount of engineering that goes into our roads to make sure that a curve is not too tight, to make sure that there's not a hill too high to see pedestrian traffic up ahead. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars every single year in this country to make sure that we can travel safer. And what do? We give the keys, and we give a license, and we give insurance to individuals who can't read English, who can't read a sign that says no U-turns. Or worse, they don't care about our laws. So either they can't read or they don't care about our laws. Either way, they should have never been behind the wheel of a tractor trailer on the turnpike. And every single time I read these stories, I think of the first time I dealt with this as a prosecutor in Hendry County, where an illegal immigrant was driving drunk in a minivan and rear-ended a motorcycle that was driven by a firefighter and had his wife on the back. Both those individuals were killed. Guess what happened after the DUI investigation was over? They went to find this illegal immigrant. Guess where he was? Not in America. He could come back. We never got his fingerprints. He could be one of these tractor trailer drivers. We don't know. But as the sheriff said earlier, everybody here has a high school photo on Facebook, has some sort of record. You have a history. You have credit. You're findable. You're trackable. A few years ago, the federal government required everybody to have a real ID, whatever that, real ID. Now you can't go through TSA unless you have a little, yellow star on your driver's license. But meanwhile, the state of California has given CDL drivers licenses to people who don't even give them their last name, who can't speak English. This has to stop. And I applaud the CFO. I applaud everybody on the plaza level in Tallahassee and in the House and the Senate. And of course, all of our law enforcement partners across the state of Florida who are going to fight to end this nonsense. It's been happening far too long. Thank God for social media. Thank God for X and not having those horrific stories hidden from us so that we can see what's really going on. And thank God for the partners that Representative Michael and I are going to fight with in the Florida legislature to make sure that these common sense laws, that they pass and that they save lives. Thank you again for everything you do on the streets. Thank you for the sacrifices that your families make to allow you to do those jobs, to keep us safe. We'll do everything we can in Tallahassee to have your back. Thank you.
And next, Representative Michael.
Thank you, CFO, and thank you, Senator. Thank you, Sheriff, and to all the Leos. My husband's in the front row. I'll tell you, illegal immigration and the fight to combat illegal immigration, deportation and released. So we missed him again. And I really commend our Leos. I thank you guys, because I think through tragedies like this, we really start focusing on this is a real human problem. We are a real family. There's nothing special about my husband or I. There's nothing different between me and you all. We're parents that raised our children to obey the laws, to love our country. So this happens to real people, and I wanted to give a voice to this, which is when I started to speak out. And I traveled with our governor when he first got in office, and just crying out and just saying, we have to do something because this has to stop. I remember when he started speaking about the 287G program, knowing that it had already been there. And I was saying that this is so important because the law officers that stopped the guy that killed our son did not have interaction with the federal side. And so that's why that 287G program and just not only joining it for all the sheriff's offices, but also enforcing it is so key, because that's someone's child. It could be your child, God forbid. And I can tell you that this is why we have to remove the incentives that draw them here. Because if you can come here and you could just make whatever money you want to make, be it drugs, be it money laundering, being whatever it is, they're going to keep coming. And that's why it's our job. We have to consistently just put those stops in. I worked with then Senator Ngolia when we presented HB, it was 1617 in the House, and SB 1718, and I presented that bill in the House, and it was so significant. And I was told that we didn't have anything that strong, any illegal immigration bill that strong in the United States. So I'm grateful that our governor, I'm grateful that our lawmakers, I'm grateful for our law enforcement that we're getting something done and we're getting things right. And we do have much more work that has to be done. So I want to thank CFO Blaise Ngolia. I want to thank you for constantly fighting, because it is a life that is in the boundaries. It's a life that's in the balance. Every time you're on the road, every time you're just going about your regular business. And the decisions that these guys have to make, I thank God for you all. You know, it's a split-second decision most of the time. It can make the difference if you get to go home, if they get to go home. In Jacksonville, just 2 months ago, there was a young man that was killed by 4 illegals in a car. And they were drunk, and the driver walked away. He just disappeared. And I don't know if they ever found him to this day. So this wasn't just a one-time. This happens more often than what people think. Because here, just 2 months ago, that happened in Jacksonville. So I thank you all for your time, and I thank the Leos. Thank you for what you do, because it matters. Thank you for putting your life on the line, because it does matter, and you're appreciated. We pray for you all. In the House, we stand behind you all. I know in the Senate, as Senator Martin just said, that they do as well. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the decisions that you make to put your citizens, your residents, ahead of crime. Thank you for all of this. Thank you for even the laws that we're about to make, CFO. And that is it. Thank you.
State Representative Keon Michael, a Republican from Jacksonville. You see State CFO Blaise Ngolia there alongside. We also heard from State Senator Jonathan Martin, a Republican from Fort Myers. The St. Johns County Sheriff Robert Hardwick also there at this news conference at the Sheriff's Office there in St. Augustine, as we hear a Republican proposal about some legislation that would crack down on illegal immigrants on the roads. You heard some references to incidents that have happened, including the crash on the turnpike involving Harjinder Singh, the suspected illegal immigrant accused of making an illegal U-turn on the turnpike because he couldn't read the signs, the road signs. We have seen proposals from Florida senators at the federal level, and it appears that this legislation may in some ways be similar, or at least have similar designs. We missed the initial explanation of this, so we'll work to learn some more details of this legislation. follow up with that on Fox 35 News Plus. We should also note that we heard earlier from State Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, a Democrat from Orlando, who spoke alongside some other Senate Democrats about legislation that Senate Democrats hope to propose when it comes to immigration. And one of the things he was talking about was being frustrated by the renewal of the governor's emergency declaration or executive order declaring a state of emergency because of illegal immigration here in the state of Florida. We brought that to you live earlier today on Fox 35 News Plus. Right now, we're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. I want to take you now to Capitol Hill, where earlier today we heard testimony from Jared Isaacman. He is the billionaire businessman and commercial astronaut who has been nominated twice now to be the administrator for NASA. He was nominated previously, had a hearing with the Senate committee, and then the president withdrew his nomination. In the meantime, it had been Secretary Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, who's been acting in that role. But the goal, according to lawmakers, is to have a new NASA administrator by the end of the year. And so earlier today, the Senate Commerce Committee held a nomination hearing where we heard from Jared Isaacman. Lawmakers had the chance to ask some questions of him as well, but I want to play for you his opening remarks as we heard him kind of lay out his priorities for NASA if he were to be confirmed as NASA administrator.
Thank you, Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Cantwell, Senator Sheehy for that very generous introduction, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm honored and grateful to be here before you again as President Donald Trump's nominee to lead the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge my family. So my parents, Sandy and Don Isaacman, behind me, my wife, Monica, my two wonderful daughters, Mila and Liv. So over the years, I've found many ways to challenge their patience, and politics is certainly no exception. We are also joined today by 7 astronauts, some of my closest friends and crewmates, together with NASA astronauts that have come to this hearing in support. Thank you very much. I also want to acknowledge and appreciate that Senator Britt from the state of Alabama is here today, so not only home to Marshall Space Flight Center, but also to Space Camp, which is where my journey began. As mentioned before, I have lived the American dream. I've been fortunate to have an amazing business and aeronautics career, to have led 2 notable missions to space, to help charitable causes that matter deeply to my family. And now I'm beyond thankful for a chance to repay my debt to this nation by serving alongside the brilliant minds at the world's most accomplished space agency. The last time I sat before you, I introduced myself, my qualifications, and the challenges and opportunities ahead. This time I'm here with a message of urgency. After more than a half-century, America is set to launch NASA astronauts around the moon in just a matter of months. This is a challenging endeavor, to say the least, and one that requires full-time leadership. Secretary Duffy, in his letter to this committee endorsing my nomination, emphasized this point. The message is shared by more than 4 dozen other letters of support, including an online petition started by members of the NASA workforce and a letter from 36 NASA astronauts who, like me, have sat through anomaly investigations, launch and flight readiness reviews, and have accepted the risks of going to space and understand what is at stake. And I know it's not lost on anyone in this room that we are in a great competition with a rival that has the will and the means to challenge American exceptionalism across multiple domains, including in the high ground of space. This is not the time for delay, but a time for action, because if we fall behind, if we make a mistake, we may never catch up, and the consequences could shift the balance of power here on Earth. This Congress, and specifically this committee, understand the urgency of the moment, placing a historic investment in human space exploration that President Trump signed in the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's now time for NASA and its partners to deliver. To that end, I want to assure you, senators, I'm not here for personal gain, to favor or enrich contractors, to close centers, or disrupt programs that are essential to completing America's objectives in space. If confirmed, I'm here to bring urgency and an extreme focus to the mission, to do all I can working with the best and brightest at NASA to lead humanity's efforts to unlock the secrets of the universe and ensure American leadership across the last great frontier. In concert with that grand endeavor, we will ensure the following: the success of the Artemis program that President Trump began during his first term. America will return to the moon before our great rival, and we will establish an enduring presence to understand and realize the scientific, economic, and national security value on the lunar surface. Along the way, we will pioneer the next giant leap in capabilities to extend America's reach even further into space, including expanding and accelerating investments into nuclear propulsion, both nuclear electric and nuclear thermal, and surface power programs. These efforts, in addition to industry partners building reusable launch vehicles, will set the stage for future missions to Mars and beyond. We will never accept a gap in capabilities again, not with our space station presence in low Earth orbit or our ability to send American astronauts to the moon. We will strive to build an orbital and lunar economy that can fund the future we all want to see in space someday and not rely exclusively on the taxpayer. We will begin making the investments now for the inevitable spacefaring future that is just on the horizon. We will make the most efficient use of every dollar allocated, pushing for more X-planes, more rovers and telescopes, more exciting missions like Hubble, James Webb, and Dragonfly, with the aim of enlightening the world through breakthrough scientific discoveries, knowing that if NASA doesn't do it, no one else will. Some of the most talented people in America show up to work at NASA. Alongside a reinvigorated culture and an intense focus on achieving the near impossible, what no other organization is capable of or even dares to accomplish, we will achieve these objectives. And when, not if, we get the job done, it will be because of the professionals at NASA, our international and our commercial partners, this committee in Congress, and President Trump's administration that will have succeeded in ushering in a new golden age of science and discovery. We'll do it for America, for humankind, and in doing so, we will inspire the world and generations to follow to take us even farther. We are just getting started on the greatest adventure in human history, and with urgency and purpose and extreme focus on the mission, NASA will lead the way. Thank you.
That was Jared Isaacman earlier today, and if you were with us on Fox 35 News Plus, you did see some sparring back and forth, specifically with some Democratic senators as well. This is a live look right now at Kennedy Space Center along Florida's Space Coast from our Launch Credit Union camera. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. Let's talk a little theme parks with our last few minutes here that we have left, because we got a lot of news today from Disney, essentially laying out the calendar for 2026 and a lot of things coming from that. So we're going to bring in Drew Smith. You know him as Drew the Disney Dude. And Drew, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live.
Yeah, like you mentioned, so much coming to Walt Disney World in 2026. Disney officially says that there's 10 all-new and reimagined attractions and experiences, 9 returning festivals and special events. Busy year, so I wanted to dive into it.
Yeah, and let's start with one of the big ones here that's been closed down for a little bit, and we now have a little bit of a better idea when Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is going to be reopening.
Yeah, finally at Magic Kingdom, we have 2 big openings in the spring of 2026, Big Thunder and Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. No specific month or the opening date there yet, but I'm hoping it will be March. I feel like when Disney says spring, my mind always goes to March. Back in 2020, that's when Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opened, so just a little bit of waiting until we finally get that opening date, but knowing that it is in early 2026, great news for especially 2 major attractions, and Magic Kingdom really does need that capacity.
Yeah, and that's just a big refurbishment of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. But you mentioned Buzz Lightyear, and there's going to be some improvements there for people to look forward to when it does reopen.
Yeah, Buzz is getting pretty much a top to bottom reimagining. I think that this is a bigger project than most people realize. We're getting handheld blasters, interactive targets, new ride vehicles, live real-time scoring. You're going to get feedback on those handheld blasters so you can actually know when you're hitting the target, and it makes it more inclusive for kids so they can feel more a part of the game rather than before those blasters were locked and they really couldn't play the game. At the beginning, this scene you guys are seeing, it's a brand new character, Buddy the Robot, created in collaboration with Walt Disney Imagineering and Pixar Animation Studios. So I am personally very excited for Buzz, but hey, Big Thunder will be great to have back too.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We also have an idea of when Rock and Roller Coaster is going to close. We do know that the pre-show has closed already, but the ride is still open. But we also got an update on that. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so now we know that, like you mentioned, Theron did a great job covering yesterday, that the pre-show is gone. We didn't know that was coming. It was kind of a shock. But today, Disney confirmed that beginning in spring of 2026, Rock and Roller Coaster will close. And then a few months later, it's going to reopen as Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. This attraction pretty much is staying the same as its DNA. We're still going to G-Force Records. We still got to make it to the concert across town. But now it's with the Electric Mayhem, Scooter, Kermit, Miss Piggy. Same attraction you know and love, just with a Muppets twist.
And what about Frozen? There's been a lot of talk about the updated audio animatronics figures. When can we expect those updates?
Yeah, this is a great quality of life update. So Frozen here at Epcot, we're getting inspiration, these updated figures from the Frozen attractions that we have in Hong Kong, Tokyo Disney Sea, Disneyland Paris, with these fully articulated, sculpted faces. Beginning on January 26th, Frozen Ever After is going to go down for a short refurbishment. And then at some point in February, we don't have a date yet, it's going to reopen with this figure. Elsa, Anna, and Kristoff are being updated. So it's going to be a great quality of life update. And honestly, it's going to be a main reason why I want to go on Frozen again. I have no desire to go on that attraction right now, but knowing we're getting these top tier animatronics with the latest and greatest in the technology, big update there.
Yeah, things to look forward to. Also, a couple announcements of things coming in the summer with Soarin' Across America and the magic of Disney animation. You got about a minute here, Drew.
Real quick. Yeah, so Soarin' Across America Memorial Day over at Epcot for America's 250th, and then over at Hollywood Studios, the Disney animation experience being inspired by Once Upon a Studio, that award-winning short film for Disney's 100th anniversary. That's opening in late summer over at Hollywood Studios. So between spring and summer at all 4 parks, also Cool Kids Summer is returning. Lots of limited time fun. The resort all year long is going to have so much, and then in 2027, 2028, we're going to get those major new lands attractions opening later down the road.
Yeah, so many things to look forward to long term. So I guess that's part of it. At least we've got some new things to keep things fresh while we wait on the big changes.
Yeah, this is our appetizer before we get the main entrees a little bit later on.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Drew Smith, Drew the Disney Dude, always good talking with you. We appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live this afternoon.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
And we are out of time. We've been live streaming the last 4 hours. If you've been with us that whole time here on Fox Local, we appreciate it. If you just joined us at 2 for Florida Live, we are here on Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock right here on Fox 35 TV. But we are out of time. Fox 35 Weather Plus will continue next on Fox Local. But here's a live look right now at downtown Orlando on this Wednesday afternoon, and a beautiful view of Lake Eola. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.
Hey everybody, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard here with your Wednesday evening forecast. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. This is my first weekday back, and just hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope any travel plans went smoothly, and hope you just had a great time with friends and family this holiday. We are really starting to get into December. Hurricane season finally wrapped up. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But weather out there right now is absolutely stunning out there. You can't think of anything better. Sunny and 70. A little bit on the chilly side, I have to admit. This morning I had to throw on the extra layer, but overall it has just been a gorgeous day. Temperatures a couple degrees below average, but we'll slowly start to see those temperatures kind of rebound a little bit. Taking a look as we head through the next couple of days. So overall, we are really just going to be continuing to see some gorgeous weather through